That's what I'm talking about. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome, Goglings. Welcome, Gog Tykes, Gogorifics, Gog Peoples, Goggers of the world unite. I hope everyone is doing well and is looking forward to what I expect to be an awesome stream today of Talisman Adventures. I am your host, Arvin Elleron. This is the show Pen and Pixels that we do here every Tuesday from 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern. And I hope everyone is looking forward to what is going to be a great session today as I bring in the amazing D&D crew, the GOG crew, which normally plays D&D, with this Talisman Adventures game, sponsored, of course, by Pegasus Spiele. Before I go any further, just a couple of reminders about ways to support us here on GOG. If you have not already done so, please consider following us here on GOG. That is always appreciated, and that allows our channel to grow and build over the years, which is lovely. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to us here as well, because that's always appreciated on GOG. You can get those awesome custom sub badges and emotes and things like that to use here and everywhere on Twitch, and of course supports the streamers that stream for your entertainment every week. And if you haven't already done so, please consider clicking through and checking out our individual ones, our individual streams, because we all have our own individual sub buttons and emotes and things like that as well. And now, with that said, it is my great pleasure, as it is episode 269 here of Pen and Pixels, to unmute myself so they know that we are ready to go. And I apologize, as always, for interrupting them, as I may have done, and then I will unmute them. And last but certainly not least, I'm going to slide over to reveal the amazing, awesome crew of D&D previously and now Talisman Adventures. It is extremely exciting, and I hope we ever are just as pumped up as I am for this show. I will say, just before we get started, Echo has a good reminder for me. So I've been going through and getting my office, all squared away and the streaming space ready, and I have a ton of swag, and I'm not going to show it all here. I'm just going to show one thing, and this is for Saber's benefit. This is the City of Arcs, and it is from my original Arcs Fatalis game that I have, and it's one of many things that I've been using. And so Echo's like, you got to show that because Saber will lose his mind, blah, 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 blah. As would Kilgore, of course, if he was here. So Arcs Fatalis, the spiritual...
I want that.
Yeah, it's the spiritual successor and to Ultima Underworld, which of course Pyron is a more than expert in, and it is much better than the god awful Underworld Ascendant, which was an incredible disappointment. And I know it's still too soon, still too painful. The memory's too real.
That's just
it's just so wrong.
I backed it on Kickstarter.
I know. I interviewed the guy. I interviewed him. He's like, "Oh, this is great," and then I played it. I'm like, "This is garbage." Anyway, regardless, but Arcs Fatalis is great, and you should play it, and it's available on GOG.
Every time I think of Arcs Fatalis, I just remember getting lost, and I start crying inside.
Oh God, yeah. Anyway, but so that's skip the stream, show the swag. We should totally do a show and tell. My other favorite on here,
all I can do is tell of all the things I don't have anymore.
My other favorite is from the original Micro Prose Magic game, which was a really good Magic the Gathering game. I love this Aswan Jaguar picture. And I have like a big, it's like a big size, size of my head card or whatever that I'd like to be able to put up. But
that was the one where you clicked around the overworld and the fights were all Magic the Gathering fights when you bumped into things.
Done by Sid Meier. And that whole crew.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, done by Sid Meier. It's a really cool game. I wish that they would remaster it or something, and even do something like for example, bring it to a certain prominent channel that does retro games quite a bit with a stream team that knows what it's doing and recently
maybe
won
has
a
a few
GOG
other
showdown.
Microprose games.
It appreciates that kind of material.
But anyway, it's a great pleasure to just I already showed the Talisman one, I think, because then I would all right, if I haven't, I'll show it. You're right, I should do it for this one. This Talisman, the Magical Quest game. This is a second edition from the 1980s. This is the one that I grew up with, and I have mine sitting right over there. I can see it from here. But this is pretty slick. This is one of my prides and joy when it comes to swag of this kind. So yes, Talisman is here, and we are here to play it with all of you. And I will begin by introducing, as always, the head of the stream team, who has got to be feeling. Now, let me confirm before I say any further. We did win the GOG showdown, right? Like, we did pull it out because of Ananda in the end. Okay, so I just want to be clear, because we were up 3-0, and then all of a sudden it was like close to, it was tied, and then Ananda pulled it out. So I just want to be clear, now I can officially say that Pyron is really smug, that the stream team successfully proved its dominance over God. I'm just kidding. It was just a lot of fun. I did have a chance to watch some of it. So congratulations again, Pyron, on assembling a team capable of holding off the GOG employees. How are you, Pyron? How's life with you, and who are you playing today?
I'm completely fine. Everything is good. And yes, we nearly pulled off that win. It was such an awesome tournament because we were like steamrolling them, and suddenly Olo Yolo came and just like kicked one stream team member after the other out of the tournament, and it was down to the wire. It was awesome. If you've missed it, there's a highlight on the channel. You can watch it. I've already cut out the technical difficulties that we had at the beginning, so it's all good. You can, it's all there for your viewing pleasure. And we're certainly going to do this again for the channel anniversary in September. Maybe not Stream Team versus Steph, but something different. But the GOG Showdown will definitely be back.
Awesome. Stream
and
team versus all.
I'm playing Regina Augusta, the how many? Give me a moment. Regina Augusta the third. That is what we decided on. Who is a sprite, but not your typical puffy Tinkerbell sprite, but somebody who wants a bit more out of life than making people fly. So she's also heavily armed.
And also heavily armed, that's true, with full armor. And I was actually watching, when I was watching back to prep for this session, I mentioned the fact that armor, we've discovered, is really powerful in the Talisman Adventures combat system. And Pyron disagreed with this concept and was like, it's not as strong as you think. And I'm like, listen, just because you're wearing an acorn shell or whatever the hell you're wearing as the sprite, you still should realize that your armor is keeping you safe on a small scale, in a way that you should be happy with. So I think you should feel good about the level of protection that your sprite has as you charge into battle and do a lot of
First
damage.
Of all, who are you calling small scale? And second, it's made of a thimble.
I beg your pardon. Yes, not an acorn shell. That's the Disney Fairies one, and that's a joke, yes. We certainly don't want to joke around with Regina. Always a pleasure to have Pyron with us. Also always a pleasure to have Darksaber2K with us, who I will yet again publicly thank for doing a Moobot and a dashboard, because it makes it super helpful on days when I'm doing this, because I'm managing the rest of the campaign stuff. So thank you again, Saber. And having said all of that, we were joking about possible questions down the line for a potential showdown, and how the questions for Saber would probably involve which games has he encountered that are not based with tentacles, like that tentacles do not play a role. And that is not an easy question. I feel like that's a question that's rough. I have to actually see whether we have tentacles in this adventure that you will encounter. I'll have to see.
I mean, I even have one of the potential answers is a game that everyone will look at and think it's obviously that one. And no, that one has it in. And I can't say what in case that question
comes up. Okay.
To go and use that question. But I can think of at least one game in the options where everyone's like, no, surely not.
It's amazing. I can't wait to see. Oh yeah, it's true. I don't know how you got typecast this way. Are there tentacles in Mad Max? Are there any? Tentacles
of blood when I smash people's heads into things. It's that kind of game.
I was amused watching, by the way, looking at stuff, and I know you had obviously premiered Mad Max when it came to GOG, and then just watching, and I'm like, Saber's been on for quite a while. I just had this image of you being like, woohoo, more riding around the wasteland. Like, because I know you were pumped for that game.
Exactly what it is.
How are you doing otherwise, Saber, and who are you playing today?
I am doing very, very well, thank you. I'm using up the last of my holiday at the moment, so I've only got one day of work this week, and then it's straight into a long weekend. So just what the doctor ordered, I think, at the moment.
Nice.
And obviously, like you say, I've very much been championing Mad Max since it came out on GOG, because it's a great game that's still 75% off. You should all play it. It is literally the price of a McDonald's.
Yeah,
and much higher
and
quality.
Far better for you. Yeah, I mean,
Yes,
absolutely.
Exactly. And on my own channel, I've been playing a bit of Final Fantasy X, a bit of Final Fantasy 14. I've been on a bit of a Final Fantasy mood in general at the moment, so it's all good stuff. And tonight, I am very happy to be back with playing Talisman with such a great group of friends. Like we always have a great time, and I will be playing Reginald Shun, Ghoul Druid, and I've already seen in chat that combination is causing a bit of confusion.
Ghoul Druid, yes.
Wait, what? Undead life person?
Yes,
What?
exactly. Don't listen. You can't hold them. Don't type. Don't ghoul cast. All right, like don't assume just because he's himself theoretically undead. That doesn't mean anything. Okay, like don't hold him
I
to
think
your.
it's vitally challenged.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
He's a strong, independent ghoul, and don't you put him in a corner. Nobody puts Reginald
I'm
in
a cornerstone of this community.
Yeah, very nice. No one puts Reginald in a grave, all right? But it is great to see Darksaber as always, and thank you, sir. And always, of course, good to see as well Peripheral Mike. Mike, who is here, who you can see is hanging out in the new digs. We were just talking about the awesome sound baffling of the place, so he just is like, hello, welcome to WKRP, that kind of thing, Mike's got the full voice power going on. Mike, how are you? When are you becoming a BBC presenter, and who are you playing today?
Well, I'm blushing now. I've got to say, I'm quite thrilled with that introduction. Hello, everyone. It's funny you should say that. Actually, I've been auditioning.
I am going to the BBC right now. I was like, all right, okay, cool.
I've been auditioning for voice acting jobs recently, including for people like the BBC and National Geographic. So it may or may not happen in the future. If you walk around, a museum in England or something like that, you may hear my voice. You don't know. I don't know at this stage. But yeah, I thought I've got a cool sound setup now. I've got the home office. This is one of the reasons why these coats are here. These aren't just for aesthetic value to make the place look untidy. These actually are great sound baffling for the rest of the house. So if I'm in here working quite late, or I'm doing some voice recording, that means I need to speak quite loudly.
Mm-hmm.
No one else can hear me. This shields everything. Freddie, the mascot in the background, he just cheers me on every now and then. So, but yeah, I'm doing well. I'm really excited. I once again have completely forgotten how to play this game, and I cannot wait to have a physical book on sale.
Oh God,
where I can purchase this book somewhere,
please,
because I've been scrolling through the
PDF. Checked. It's due in April according to their website. I double checked.
The day it goes on sale, I'm going to buy one.
Yeah, no, I'm
just because
same.
I just can't. I can't not do this. I can't do this with a PDF anymore. Please, Pegasus Spieler, please, anything. Just release it sooner. I'll pay you double. I don't care. Anyway. So yeah, I'm looking forward to playing. I'm looking forward to exploring Ashflower, the Laywalker Assassin, which is a bit of an odd combination, and even other Talisman roleplay adventure players that I've spoken to online are just like, how does that work? And I'm like, I don't know. Tune in and find out.
We will all learn.
I'm very much looking forward to it. Yeah,
always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to have Mike with us. And yes, I could not more endorse the statement of please God get the print book out, because
I'm begging you, it's killing me.
It's also like I'm waiting for my Tales and Tomes, the Forbidden Library has been stuck in U.S. Customs for now over 2 months, and I can't, please give me physical book, just physical book. God, give me the physical stuff. Like I don't, PDFs are great, but I want to be able to actually leaf through them as God intended. Anyway, it is always a pleasure to have Mike with us. And it's also a pleasure, of course, to have Tasty Chai with us. And I should say that when we were getting set up for this before, Pyron was talking about something else, and then I started cracking up in the middle of what she was saying, because Chai's baby comes literally just like the BBC thing with the person kicks open the door and the kid comes walking up. Chai's daughter just comes do and literally like moves the chair around, and I'm like, I think she's just gonna get up and be
Get on
like,
the chair.
"Hello,
She's getting on the
welcome."
chair.
You
She's
know?
getting on the chair.
Yeah, she's getting in the chair. Oh, it was cracking me up.
And like the thing was, you were nowhere. Like you were just the baby was just wandering around. Like I expected the baby to like hoist up on the chair and be like, "Hey, what up, you guys?"
I've replaced mom, and yeah, it was very, very funny. How are you, Tasty Chai? How is the life in the universe with you, and who are you playing in our session today?
I'm gonna really try to talk to you guys because she's been screaming like this whole time.
Oh, no.
She's like, ah! So that's been fun. And I did see that. I was actually right over here. I was getting her lunch ready, and I saw her just, come right up to the camera. I have expected her to climb up too, but she's scared of this chair because it wiggles. So
Nice. You should maintain that.
Yes.
That way. Yeah.
Yes, that way my keyboard is safe.
Yes.
But anyway, I am doing all right. Things could be better, but they could be worse as the thing goes. I am playing Muriel, who is an elven prophet. A little bit hazy on the mental thing, but mostly okay, super awkward, and sort of knows what's going on most of the time. That's kind of where she's at.
Mostly manages. That seems.
I also I just want to say, this is what the child brought up to me to read to her while I was sitting here and you guys were doing your intros. This is the book she chose.
See,
favorite book.
I'm telling you, it's the tentacles get somehow like.
I know there's something about it. There's something about it. Anyway, I just thought you guys would appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's.
I love that there's a child's book called C is for Cthulhu. That's just made my day.
There too. There's C is for Cthulhu, and then we have Sweet Dreams Cthulhu that back in her.
Nice.
That's funny. So it is always a great pleasure to have Chai with us, and it is a great pleasure to have this entire crew with us. And yes, just before I do the recap, I'm just double checking. I want to reset here. So at the beginning of our session, the light fate, each of the players is going to get one light fate to start with here. And what I'm trying to track down at the moment is how much dark fate the GM starts, or if it rolls over. I don't think it rolls over, because I'll tell you right now, I had 5 dark fate coming out of the last session. And so... Okay, let's see. Just double checking.
Do GMs have a higher fate?
Begin with maximum dark fate. Actually, so let's see. Yeah, begins 1 dark fate token for each player. Right. Okay. So 4. All right. So not 5, but 4. All right. Good. Just wanted to make sure. I'm just going to make sure I use my.
I just wanted to check because I have a maximum light fate of 3, and I was just like, hey.
I'll tell you. Listen, but I have to worry about all of you, and like so. Okay, let's get moving here with our Greenforge Studios sponsored music. Thank you to Greenforge Studios for licensing this music to us. You also heard that music from Greenforge Studio in the amazing intro video that we had today, put together by, of course, the incomparable Mike Smith. So, in our last session, the party has come together, has met each other in this graveyard within the city. And within this graveyard, they discovered that there is a problem. The spirits are restless, you might want to say. And specifically, there were spirits that were being apparently chased and followed. One of the tombs in a remote corner of the cemetery, which Reginald Shun is responsible for maintaining, one of these tombs has been defiled and something vital was stolen from within it. And right after the spirit said that, a couple of spirits showed up and basically attacked the party. The party was able to take them out without too much difficulty. In fact, I don't believe that any of them ended up losing. They're at full life, as I see it, leading into this. So they managed to hold them off. But there was, a question about how powerful, what the sort of dangers was going to look like in the graveyard. And so the spirit that had first told them that there was a problem asked them to follow the spirit to this desecrated tomb. and the party was led to an ancient tomb which stands atop a round hill with weeds and vines climbing to the domed marble structure. There was a statue fashioned to look like an angel with its head bowed standing on either side of the entrance, and the door to the tomb hung open. And so the party decided that they would enter and they would brave the tomb. Inside the tomb, which is the map that you see in front of you. Also, thank you for, let me fire up the GOG notifications. Sorry, I didn't have the GOG alerts up. Thank you, Vyron, for the subscription for 15 months. Good to have these GOG arms back. Well, it's good to have... Oh, wait, it's Darksaber. Why was they saying... Wait, what? Why am I looking at... Oh, I see. Okay, no, never mind. It looked like Darksaber somehow was saying something to Vyro. Never mind. My chat was weird. Yes, so thank you, Vyro, for subscribing again, resubbing at 15 months. It is good to have you back with us. The party entered this tomb, which has these ornate frescoes depicting scenes of an ancient royal family covering most of the walls. And there was a massive sarcophagus in the middle of the room and a bare altar in the back of the room. And it was the back altar, after Reginald made very clear, don't open the sarcophagus, because, you know, it was dangerous. The party managed to discover, and I believe it was Muriel who found this out first, that the tomb was built for Emmeline, who was the last daughter of the ancient king and queen of the realm, and the legend told that the great wizard that formed much of the realm killed Emmeline and her brother in a fit of rage after her parents had refused to let her become the wizard's apprentice. And so Muriel was able to gather this information, and the party said that they basically, you know, knew some of those details. And the characters then went to the altar in the back, where they found an inscription carved into the marble which read, "This gilded talisman preserves the balance of life and death. As long as it remains here, souls in this sacred place of slumber may rest in peace." And there is a triangular indentation in the center of the altar where something once rested. And it was at that dun-dun-dun moment where we stopped our last session, and that is where we are going to pick up from today. Reginald and Muriel have just found this. Ashflower is inside, and I think Regina is hanging outside the tomb, I believe, unless I'm mistaken. I think that's where your figure is anyway, Regina, is right outside the tomb. But if you want to be inside, you certainly can be if you like. And so I'm going to hand things back over. The music is great, original Twitch. I agree. It is, again, this is from Greenforge Studio. It's really great stuff. I highly recommend them. So I'm going to hand things back over to the party. Party, what would you like to do?
I'm going to move further into the crypt.
Okay.
So I'm going to move to about here and just observe, because I still need to speak to Reginald.
Okay.
I'll hover behind him and pretend he is in my way.
And pretend he's in your way.
Just bear with me a sec. I've just had to restart Chrome because I was getting no sound, so I'm just getting all my windows back up.
Okay.
Yeah, I also have no sound in Roll20.
I had to restart Chrome, but I've got it now.
I have sound. It's great.
It's just,
Yeah, my sound's great. It's
Can you describe the
You're
nature
welcome.
of the sound?
Yeah, can you just do a live, like,
Like
you know, sounds like,
Mike's like that one party member in Nightmare from when we were kids. I'm sure Mike watched Nightmare.
Watched it. I think I applied to be on it.
I think I did once as well, yeah. And that's the fun. We're trying to give directions when the British for okay is right. So you turn left, right?
Yeah.
Right. No, left. Right.
Damn it, what
no,
are you...
And
It's
you
forward,
got chopped
right?
in half by a
Right,
saw blade.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're
pretty
falling
much.
off the edge. There they go.
Yeah.
Bye.
That's funny. So yes, so here we are. You can see yourselves next to the sarcophagus and this now empty altar, apparently.
That looks bad. That would explain the problem. We found it. That's the problem right there. That thing that's missing. Whatever it is.
Would Reginald know what it is, or would he have to test his knowledge?
I would say... I'm trying to think if you would even have the knowledge to be able to do it, to make a test. I mean, because you obviously are familiar with many of the things within the tombs, but probably my guess is that Reginald knows the outside more than the inside of most tombs, because I assume Reginald doesn't, make sure doors are locked, right? And
Not unless families are paying for specific types of upkeep.
Right. Yeah, exactly. If they get the premier service, right, like the extra service, like that's a whole different.
And this one is pretty long forgotten, so he just makes sure it's not overgrown on the outside.
Would you call that premier service a subscription?
But he also has.
Outstanding.
Thank you very much.
Subscription.
That's it.
Try
I'm
to
out.
be
See you next week.
You'll be there all week.
But he does have a broad lore knowledge, so he may be able to. He may have heard something about something like this.
Okay, let me have you make then a. Let me have you make the same test that I had Muriel make. So let's try a lore / wits test to get a sense of what this might be.
So wits of 4, that would be 3d6 plus 4.
Yes.
And we agreed on last dice.
Last die is Kismet.
Yes. Yeah. So that's 15 with no doubles.
Okay.
So standard success, I believe.
So I think it's fair to say you have heard of so first of all, there are items that are often left in tombs, sometimes of course as markers for the dead, as things for them to take to the next world, the world beyond, but also things which are intended to ward off potential dangers that could exist. And you don't know the specifics of this, but there are certainly rumors of rather powerful artifacts that were kept inside tombs inside this cemetery. This is probably the most ancient, or one of the most ancient anyway, cemeteries that exist within the realm as a whole. So your guess would be that this probably was an artifact that was kept inside this ancient tomb, inside this ancient graveyard, precisely because they didn't want people to be able to get whatever it was. Best guess is that it is, in fact, this Gilded Talisman. You have heard rumors of talismans like this, some of them which apparently allow you to survive great heat or wintry weather conditions, great cold. Some of them are designed to give you kind of magical bonuses or benefits that you would have when it's on your person. But talismans also, are things which have great significance in the world, meaning you don't play around with them. Like, if you take them, you better know what the hell you're doing, or bad things can happen. And there are not many of the great talismans, the great sort of artifacts of this type that exist. So usually not a good sign for one to go missing,
Whoever came here for this. Nothing else was disturbed.
I'm hovering behind F. Flowers, looking over his shoulder like, what are they looking at? What is it? What is it? Can you see it? What are they looking at?
I just look over to, I was like, oh, hello, small flying friend of the forest. I'm not entirely sure.
I'm not a friend of the forest. Why would I like the forest? The forest doesn't like me either.
But you're normally friends of the forest. I've seen many of your kind in the forest.
You must confuse me with somebody else. I've not seen any of my kind.
But you say you don't like the forest, so how could you have seen them in the forest?
What? Like...
I stop and I straighten a second. And I go, I have seen many of your kind where I am from in the forest.
There is only one of me.
I'm going to walk over to the altar.
Pound my head into it repeatedly.
Yeah. I'm going to look at Reginald and I'm going to say, I now feel that you are not potentially the reason I'm here. I don't know why I am here, but I take it you keep this place?
This is my family's graveyard.
I see where you...
Several generations.
I see where you inter your dead. I wasn't summoned here, but a drawing has brought me here to seek someone, and I'm not entirely sure who. I thought it might have been yourself because you, and I motioned to the doors like outside, you displayed quite a mastery of this place and quite the keeping upon it. but I have a feeling that this, and I motion to the empty altar, the indent, this may have been why I'm here. I'm not sure though. Is this why I look over to Muriel? Thank you. I look over to Muriel and say, "Is this why you're here?"
Actually, I'm here because I had a dream about Ghost. But we talked to the ghost, and she brought me in here, and now we're here, standing in front of this thing, and it's missing the thing that we're standing in front of. So I suspect that's actually the real reason, and it wasn't the dream at all. The dream was just a summons. Yeah.
I don't think you can stand in front of a thing that is missing.
We're doing it right now. See?
But it's not here. We're not standing in it. We're not. You people are seriously weird.
I kind of make an open hand gesture to Regina, and I'm like, I think the small sprite suffered a head injury. Though I'm not sure.
I mean, just a few, but they were a long time ago. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is that we need to find this thing.
The thing.
Mm-hmm. The thing that fits inside of this triangle bit here.
Kind of point to you three. Do you know each other?
No.
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 Wait, I look at Regina's just completely empty stone face.
How would I know people if I apparently live in the forest?
I'm not getting back into that topic of conversation.
Mostly people talks to me when they got dead need burying.
So we've all arrived here at this point in time, but we're not sure why, either through dream or compulsion or any other reason, but we're not.
Well, I owns the graveyard.
But this is a large graveyard, correct? So you could have been anywhere at this point.
Indeed. Not many grave robbers gets by me these days.
Interesting. I'm going to shuffle over and I start mumbling. I'm just talking to myself at this point.
Okay.
So anyway, I think we should find this thing. Maybe we should figure out what it is. Is there a way to figure out what this is where it is now? Because it's still a thing, it's just not here, where it should be.
As to what it is,
quick table question.
many stories are talismans. Sorry, what was that?
Oh, what?
What?
The table question.
Yeah, table question.
I was going to ask a quick table question. So I'm relatively new to the lore of the Talisman games. So the talismans themselves, does like everybody know what a talisman is in the world, or are these just very powerful artifacts that only a few people? They're like legendary items.
They're legendary items, although I would say that they are. I think everyone knows of the existence of magical artifacts like this. I don't think they know, oh, this specific talisman does this particular thing, except in certain circumstances. And this probably, wouldn't refer to it, or presumably the city would have done even more to secure it. It's the kind of thing that probably vanished a little bit into legend. But people know that magical items that are very powerful do exist, and that talismans as a concept are things that people don't want to fool around with. But the fact that it's not like every talisman looks like triangular with the hand, like the classic iconic look from the board game, not necessarily.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, cool. So to draw reference from something else, just because I've been listening to and reading a lot of Lord of the Rings recently, it's a little bit like the Rings of Power. Like, there are a lot out there, and they are powerful, but they're kind of a little bit legendary. But as soon as one surfaces, people have to kind of check whether or not it is actually a talisman or not.
Yeah,
and talisman, or just a magic item.
That's right, and it's almost always an imbalancing thing. Like, having it out in the populace is always like, to jump into modern terms, like someone walking around with a tactical nuke. It's a bad idea, right? And you don't know what they do with it. So yeah.
Cool, excellent. That brings me as a player up to speed a little bit in regards to what a talisman actually is and its kind of importance in the game, and also anybody else who's watching or listening to this who isn't aware of it. That's my excuse anyway. If I ask any dumb questions, I'm educating the
You're
viewers.
doing it for the benefit of all the people.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll get you in a board game session sooner or later, Mike.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
probably.
Mike is a man of the people. That's what this is about.
Cool. Okay, I'm gonna go and have a quick look at where the this magical item was, and I'm just gonna not inspect it, but I'm just gonna see where it was, because something doesn't feel right.
Yep.
So Reginald's going to examine the area around, hoping that his ability to notice will maybe pay off.
Okay.
So have the notice skill, no specialization, just general notice.
I would say, okay, I should just send that thing on. I would say that there's nothing in particular that, because you folks had done tests when you first entered to sort of look and see if there's anything that you noticed. Walking around, there's nothing in particular that looks disturbed or unusual. There is, of course, a closed sarcophagus, and so that remains closed, and you don't know what's in or outside of that. But otherwise, the inside of the tomb looks more or less like what you see, and seems, other than the door being open and this talisman being gone, this triangular talisman being gone, seems to be as it normally would be. Hey, Bethesda. So, as you're all sort of looking around and thinking about stuff, I guess actually, Reginald, since you mentioned doing this, you don't even have to make a test to see that there is a tendril of mist. Now, I mentioned that there was mist outside of the tomb, but you notice that mist is now beginning to float into the tomb through the open door. And as you're looking, you notice that the mist is beginning to gather and fill the chamber on that end.
I'm going to walk over there.
Okay.
And have a look at the mist.
When you get over there...
Actually, probably be more like that side.
Okay. When you get over there, you are, maybe you less than anybody else would be, not as surprised to hear a voice from the mist. You don't see anything this time other than the mist, though, and the voice seems a little different. It says, "Find the Enchantress," it commands. "She will know who stole the Talisman of Balance. She dwells on plains to the south. Should you fail, look for my light in the evening's twilight." And then the mist begins to drift away from the room, and her voice, it's definitely a female voice, fades as you hear it say, "Hurry, your time is short." Now, most of you, I think, could have heard... I'm sorry, Saber. Most of you, I think, would have heard that there was whispering, but only Reginald was close enough to hear, clearly, to hear it fully.
Stolen object.
What did that go say? What did that go say? Yeah.
Apparently, a talisman of balance has been stolen. We need to find us an enchantress in the south.
Do we?
This makes sense. This makes sense. There's a convergence here, so there's a great imbalance in the magical properties of the world through either arcane items being stolen or magics being gathered in a certain place, and the fabric of this world is trying to right itself. It's trying in a most unusual way by converging us to try and find this item.
It's rare that a spirit would be peaceable. Most spirits are vengeful.
Rare? I'd say it's impossible. This entire scenario is incredibly rare. This never happens.
Reginald chuckles at that.
I'm not sure I want to
Like a
converge.
couple of centuries running a graveyard, lad.
I'm not sure I want to converge. What exactly does it entail?
I don't think we have a choice. I think whatever path we take, we could all walk in separate directions right now. We may eventually find ourselves in exactly the same spot in a number of days, weeks, months, years' time. These times of great import, these happen upon us. Some call it the fabric of the universe, some call it the ether, some call it fate. This is a thing that happens.
So if I now go to the inn, all of you also have to go to the inn? We could go there. We could have a drink, maybe.
Oh no, I don't drink. That would be horrible.
Okay. You see some really hard thinking going on. We could ask the knowledgeable people at the inn about an enchantress. How about that? And get a drink.
I mean, finding more information about this is probably wise.
Yes,
We'll also
yes.
speak to the dung sweeper.
Yes.
The
I
what?
don't know what that is, but yes.
Okay, can I explain this briefly out of character for everyone, because I know who the dung sweeper is. In Talisman lore, the dung sweeper is a female ghoul who basically runs the entirety of the city cleaners. She's actually one of the most knowledgeable characters within the city, because very little goes on in the city that she doesn't hear about through, because, you know, you've got people shoveling shit off every street corner. People don't pay them much attention. Many a business meeting, I was like, oh, it's just a street sweeper, don't mind them. So she hears a little bit about everything that's going on. And because she's a ghoul, I kind of have an in with her, just on a racial level.
Oh, yeah, we should go talk to her. And not get a drink.
Of course, if you were all from outside the city, you might not know her significance. And
I just know I had an idea of a ghoul lady.
Yeah, I hold a hand up. I'm like, I'm not from here. I'm not a fan of cities.
Not a lot goes on in the city the dung sweeper don't hear about.
You know, we just had the choice.
We
just had the choice between the inn and the dung sweeper, and all of you are choosing the dung sweeper.
Well, you said find out information.
I said inn.
We just bounced off of your idea to the right idea, because that's where we're supposed to go.
Why not both?
I mean, we could do both, but really we should only do the one, because we have to go talk to the lady people.
I mean, old Reg don't get nothing from no beer.
I
don't need no food neither.
Oh God, you people. I can already see that this convergent thing is not really fun, so let's get it over with.
Okay. Are you gonna make your way
Suits
out
me.
to this place?
I was minding my own business, tending my graves anyway.
Well, point the way, good sir, because I only know what we're supposed to find. I just have pictures. I have no idea where she is. So if you know where she is, I'll follow you.
I'm going to catch up with Reginald real quick, and I'm going to ask him. So this dung sweeper, charming name, I'm sure. So this is the person who knows the most about the city, correct?
Not a lot goes on she ain't heard something about. And hey, when you're a ghoul in a city, dung sweeper's one of the nicer names.
I can imagine. I don't believe city dwellers are particularly nice. They're not particularly nice when they expand their cities into forests and woodlands. Or they hunt the denizens of the forest, so I'm not the biggest fan of them. But yeah, if this is the best person to seek this information from, then we'll definitely seek this information.
It's definitely a point to ask some information. No knowing what she knows or don't know, but if she don't know, there ain't much worth knowing.
I look very blankly at Reginald. Right. So we'll go and speak to this person. Yes.
Reginald looks confused for a moment. He's like, I haven't spoken this long in many years.
I'm sorry. I don't speak to people that often. Our interactions are normally very quick, sharp, and splattered slightly with blood, so I'll just follow.
By this point, I'm sure you people shouldn't drink.
I don't really drink anyway.
Yeah, figures.
Well, I learned the hard way that, I mean, there was that one time when I had some beverages, and then there were a lot of images, and then I woke up on the roof upside down, and it was really scary. So I don't do that anymore. There were a lot of scary images too. So we're no.
Ashflower just looks at Muriel like he's just not studying her, but like he has no idea how she works. Like he's met humans and elves before, but he's no idea. You are fascinating to Ashflower right now.
Okay, people, let's go converge with the dung sweeper.
Reginald's just blankly looking at everyone to wait for what happens next at this point.
Reginald's just like, get out of my graveyard.
Hut, let's converge, go on. Can we? Huh?
I motion to Reginald.
Dung sweeper, converging now? Please?
Okay.
Okay, so Reginald, assuming you're leading them to find the dung sweeper, let us know where would we find this dung sweeper?
I'll have to double check. I believe she works in City Hall, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, that's just a good start point. Anyway, we'll just head to like the local City Hall place wherever the public servants generally work and ask where we might find the dung sweeper this day.
And you are actually directed down several alleys to Stable Alley. Now, one of the parts of the city that basically they call it Stable Alley because it's where you have all this row of not just horse stables, but also stables for other animals, for goats and pigs and like things that people bring into the city. The city has ordinances against having these animals led through the streets without certain exceptions. And so when you come in, you have to pay a certain fee to deposit your animal at the stable where they are watched over by the stable hands there, and then go off and do their business in the city. And so Stable Alley has a couple of things that are notable about it. The first is that it's quite loud. So you've got a lot of, sounds going on and all that kind of business. And in fact, let's see if I can fire up some, let's go with this one. So you've got some city music there. And then in addition to that, you also have this other thing that comes along with lots of animals, and that is smell, specifically scent of the leavings and waste behind. So as you walk in, those of you, probably Reginald is not going to have to worry about this, but those of you impacted with smell problems are immediately assaulted, might be a good way to put it, by the overwhelming stench in this place. And as you're walking down the street towards where you were told you could find the dung sweeper, you have to also be careful to kind of step out of the way. There are some very suspicious looking dark spots on the street, and some areas that might be dirt, but more mud, but maybe not, and that kind of thing.
Nice soil.
And eventually you get there, get to the end of the street, and you can see that someone or something is in the last stable and is literally just starting to pull out onto the street some stuff. And there are multiple buckets they have set up nearby. This person is sort of bent over, has their back to you as you approach, and is just kind of scraping along the road. And as they're scraping, you can also hear they have a taking time to take this crap in the bucket, then I'll take a nap. And every time they make this sound, they finish a verse and then crap goes into the bucket. Gonna make time to get this poo. That's what I was paid to do. You know. Clearly, Reginald has to be the Dunsweeper for which you were looking.
I wait for a break in the song, just like, which for Reginald is quite difficult because there's not a lot of bodily fluids to clear a throat with. So it's more like,
This is very dry. Oh man. So at first the creature seems to take no notice of you whatsoever. It's just, going to make with all this dirt. I wish my job didn't hurt, and then you do it again, and then kind of turns around, and you see those of you who are not Reginald, Regina, Ashflower, and Muriel, see someone that might remind you a little bit of Reginald in the sort of sallow skin and the longer fingernails and the kind of hunched, sort of look. But this creature looks even older than Reginald, and looks kind of like her expression seems to be in this sort of, like horrible grin. And then you realize that it seems like that's probably just her natural state of affairs, is just to have her expression this way. And so, she's shoveling and kind of, what can I do for you? I'm here doing my job. Watch out or you'll be a slob. And puts the crap into a bucket.
I bow my head. Lady Dunsweeper.
You're young Reginald Shoon down there from the graveyard, ain't you? I've heard about you before, but then I wouldn't bait you. Puts the stuff in the bucket.
Milady, I bring grim tidings from my graveyard. Some ne'er-do-wells broke into a crypt. It must have been an old crypt, not on any of my upkeep lists, and stole an artifact.
And she kind of looks at you, nods slowly, and, so you're looking for a lost artifact. I wonder whether you can get it back. And sort of stares at you. You get the impression that every time she says this, by the way, this feels like a long honed ritual. Like you're guessing she's got thousands of these chambered and ready to go. You know what I mean? Because that's like, and so she says, you've been a little careless, Shoon. You had more work you're supposed to do. And sort of looks at you and, and as she leers towards you, by the way, the rest of you see she's like, one of these things that looks like very terrifying, but Reginald doesn't seem to be bothered by it.
Hang on. Yes. To find the talisman of power that we seek, we must find the Enchantress within the week.
And she nods and she says, why are you trying to rhyme? And then pauses and says, there's really not that kind of time, and just goes on as if completely clueless at and she says, so you're looking for the Enchantress. Well, unless I miss my guess, you're gonna cause yourself some problems. And that's because someone's robbed him. The Enchantress left the city, see? She's gone away. And you ask me, there's got to be a house she lives. But if you take advice I give, I'd tell you'd go out in the fields. Search where all the city yields. When you find no people there, then you'll find Enchantress and her long hair. She's not too fond of those who visit, so be ready. I shall make you go ribbit. And backs up.
Reginald runs for his life. No. Played too much talisman to let that slip by. Thank you, my lady. I owe you good. Mayhaps come see me if you need some help in the woods.
And she nods and says, That's all right. That's all right, young Shun. I hope you keep your work you've been doing. And she goes, "Pah." And then as she turns around, she says, It'll take a few days, so don't take long. If you go down the right path, you won't go... And then she looks down at the ground, sees more stuff, shovels more. Wrong. And then goes into the stable.
I turn back to apparently my companions.
Who I imagine are just like...
My reluctant companions.
Yeah.
Well, that's about what she can tell us.
I turn to Muriel and Regina. Is he always like this?
Who?
I point over to Reginald.
Like always?
I've known the three of you as long as you've known me.
Well, of course.
Not
That's
true. I
well,
mean, yeah, that's right. Anyway, she's less spooky in real life, you know? That grin, it can only come so close to you, which is nice. It can't just actually swallow you whole, which was really scary. But
And if you need to work a couple of nights for some coins, she'll never turn you away.
But you know, that's how
Noted.
meeting people works. Like, if two people meet, they both know each other for the same amount of time.
The meat puts in the ground don't really know much of anything.
I'm not sure if that is like covered by meeting people.
Like I'm not sure if that's the meat she means.
So have we
Well,
now?
I tends to know them afterwards. Some of them get confused on their journey.
Like
I just kind of
the
rub
journey
my
from
temple a
5
little
feet
bit.
up to 5 feet down.
I really
The
don't. like
journey
cities.
from this side to the other.
There's a reason I don't like cities.
Well, maybe you should live in the forest then.
I do live in the forest.
What are you doing here?
Something drew me here. Look,
The city
spend
is
my
a
time-
confusing place.
I just spend my time helping those who are struggling from this world to the next on their way. Similar in part to young Reginald here. And that I am drawn to certain places where people are clinging on to their, their life force, and I ease them in their passing. I was drawn here. I was drawn here for some reason. I thought it was to speak to Reginald, but it isn't. And now I have a feeling it has something to do with this stolen item.
After speaking to Reginald, no.
Yeah. I'm speaking to Reginald. Definitely not.
You know, I would like to continue
I
clinging to my
draw-
life force.
I take a dagger out. I tap Reginald on the shoulder. I'm like, oh, never mind. Wrong person. Carry on.
I'm here to kill you. Oh, too late. Sorry. My
I'm
mistake.
here for a very important reason, and I'm no longer sure what that is.
You make this clinging to the life force thing not sound as good as I personally feel it is. So I'm going to continue with my clinging. So from what I understood, we're now going to meet the Enchantress and take the talisman away from her, and then we're done converging.
We were told to seek the
I
Enchantress.
think so.
Well, let's seek her
Something
out
along those
then.
lines.
So, are you all in agreement that's what you're going to do? That's the theory, that's the plan?
Yes, let's beat up the Enchantress.
Okay. So, if you're going to do
Whoa,
this...
hang on.
this is
Whoa,
good.
time out.
Yeah, I don't remember there being any assault on
It's like,
table.
yeah.
going to beat up the... Yeah.
Well, maybe she shouldn't cling to
Hey.
her life force then.
You seem quite hung up about this. Are there not
About
people
what?
hung up about my position within my order?
What? There's an
About
order of you
people-
people?
Never mind, I've said too much.
Yeah.
So,
Don't worry,
Reginald, the
no one will pick
Enchantress.
up on it. It's fine.
Excellent, thank you.
Prefer not to
How
disturb
do
the
you
balance
know
of nature.
this? Do you have a problem with authority? Is it that?
I'm just constantly looking at Muriel. I'm just, every time Muriel speaks, I'm just sort of like, how do you know this?
It turns out everyone's just very easy to read.
I would like Reginald to make a lore check for me as well, because you may have heard of the Enchantress because she did reside in the city at one point. So.
Okay. That's wits, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so it's +4. 3d6 +4. Come on, game. It's already pre-cubed. Ooh! That's a double.
Yes. So, give me a second as I pop to the other one. Okay. Again, I adore PDFs so much. Okay. So when you roll a double, it means that the test is a great success. So you were completely successful in this action. And what that means in this context, Reginald, is that you have heard of the Enchantress. In fact, you actually met once the Enchantress a long time ago, although you doubt that she would remember it, because she was looking at a couple of old ancient monuments basically within the graveyard, and you had basically gone up and said, do you need some help? And she had not so politely told you to get away from her before she blasted you into the next region. And you being a practical ghoul recognized that the Enchantress probably had the power to do it. The Enchantress is a little bit volatile, might be the best way to put it. She sometimes gets really pissed off. She's been known to turn some people into toads and other creatures, which is, problematic. But you also know that you had not heard that the Enchantress had left the city, which the Dunsweeper just told you. But what you do know is that the Enchantress rarely welcomed visitors, even in her city days. Like, it was the kind of thing where she was in the city and she would occasionally help someone for her own inscrutable purposes. But people coming to visit her, and a lot of people tried, were taking their toaddom, so to speak, into their own hands. If she's anything like she used to be, then she does indeed have a great wealth of magical knowledge. She probably is still going to be really frustrated with anyone who comes to visit her, but, she's likely to know information more than as much as any, user of magic actually would. And you have a rough guess as to the kind of places that she might want to stay. That'll have a mechanical benefit we'll talk about when we get into this next part. So.
Yeah, so just hold up my hand as we're walking along. Just remembered, I met the Enchantress once. She came round my graveyard, poking round my graves.
That seems to happen a lot.
Less than you'd think. Something about a ghoul that can grow cat claws keeps the people away, and those that don't, I lightning bolt deals with them. But yeah, still, when she told me to bugger off, I buggered off and stayed buggered off. Some folks you don't push. Mighty temper. Probably gonna require our most diplomatic approach. I look at the other three expectantly.
I look at Muriel.
I would think so, because otherwise we would probably turn into soup, and I don't think that's something you can really recover from.
Toads is more her thing.
I mean, yeah,
soup comes later.
With the toads. See, I got a little ahead of myself. It was the toads first, and then the soup. But either way, we don't really get better. It gets worse. I don't think I'm the one who should talk to her.
I get the impression you might know more than you're saying.
Feels like charming or disarming would be better than with arms.
I have arms.
But they're very small.
Oh boy.
They seem to have the right size for me. So
That's true. They're perfect for you. If they were any bigger, you wouldn't be able to murder things dramatically with flurry and excitement.
I'm pretty sure if I try hard, I can murder things with bigger arms.
I'm just looking at the other party members trying to decide if they have any big arms we could test this with.
I am walking away.
I stand here looking scrawny as
away.
someone with atrophied muscles looks.
I converge behind him.
Okay. So just let me know whether your plan is, are you going to take off immediately? Are you getting anything in the city? And I'll explain a little bit about the exploration rules that we're about to start, which are a bit different than they're a bit different than some of the ones that we've talked about before to this point. But is there anything in the city that any of you are thinking about that you would like to deal with before departing this place?
If I can do this, I'm going to buy some alcohol.
Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
I think
Like a tiny flask
Mhm.
of really strong stuff that nobody else apparently needs.
Don't you mean just the right size flask?
Yes, of course. That's what I meant. It's you people messing with my head. That's all the whole problem. And not enough alcohol.
Okay. I think you can probably do that. What money do you have, if any, Regina?
Like money that is far too big for me, or what is it that you mean? Like,
Right, exactly.
I'm like carrying...
Yeah.
I do have money on my sheet. I do have gold coins. And I've been thinking about how the hell is she carrying those around?
Above her head, I assume.
I think I might have just tied them kind of to my bag, so I have like these big plates of gold on my back. I'm not sure.
So you're a flying purse at this point.
I clink
like an
when
upside down hot air balloon.
So yes, I do have money according to my character sheet.
So you can get, for the price of 1 gold coin, you can get a pretty, even for you, like even for a so-called larger person, would get like one of your other party members would be able to probably use this particular wineskin for about a week. It costs a gold coin, costs one gold piece, and that would allow you to use that for, as I say, pretty much the entire week. And after which it will have lost its potency and will not be very good.
So I acquire a bit of wineskin, and then I look at the people. I look at Reginald. I look at Ashflower. I turn to Muriel. Would you be so kind and carry that for me?
I suppose so.
Thank you very much.
I just daintily take it and place it in
your
my
hand
pocket.
goes, like it's
It's like a big wineskin.
yeah, it's pretty heavy. It's like a
okay,
cask.
well, even still, I'm just like, well, it's as long as it's not a keg, I have to carry on my back.
Yeah.
Oh man, with backpack straps, just
So
okay.
how does Shrouded Truths work? Does that just pop in, or do I have to say, hey, should I have a thing because we're about to embark on something? Or...
Yes, that's a good question. Let me check Shrouded Truths, because 77. So, so you receive it depends on if you want to use actually at the moment you've only got the 1 light fate, because that's what we start with. So you wouldn't be able to initiate this. So typically I will give you, in fact, I think you've had one already. I will give you a Shrouded Truths thing. If you want to initiate one in which you basically are like, ask an open-ended question, like, do I go north to find the Enchantress or whatever it is, then you can do that. And it takes an hour, plus 2, you can either spend an hour plus 2 light fate or 2 spell points and 2 light fate. to basically create this prophetic vision. But you can't do that at the moment because of the lack of light fate, unless I were to grant one to you, and that situation has not occurred on my end yet. So if you get another light fate, you could do that if you needed to.
Right. That makes sense. I just wasn't clear on the mechanics of it.
Yep. Everyone else good?
Yeah, I'd probably like to talk to Reginald a bit more at some point.
Then, I mean, feel free to do that, and then we're going to talk about the exploration and how that works.
Excellent. So I'll go over to Reginald. So it appears that this magical item has drawn people towards it, presumably to help balance the effect of this item being missing. Who was actually buried there in that crypt?
Now, out of character, I was told last session that was quite a while ago.
Yeah, I mentioned that it was the Emmeline I talked about earlier today, who was the last daughter of the king and queen of the realm.
Yeah, and this princess of the realm, was she a collector? Was she a great wizard? A collector of magical artifacts? I'm not sure what exactly is missing at the minute. How powerful are we talking?
Sadly, I have very little information to go off.
No.
It looks like whoever paid for her to be interred in my graveyard neglected to pay for upkeep. And at that point, they tend to just vanish off my lists until brought to my attention again. My only role was to keep the overgrowth away from the outside. One does not simply walk into a crypt.
I mean, that makes sense. And I think whatever it is, be it powerful artifact or not, it's seemingly powerful enough for the realms and the cosmos to gather for seemingly complete strangers in order to write something. So, I don't know, I guess we'll find out.
It's not that easy for a spirit that's gone on its way to come back. Plenty get lost on the way and stick around, but those that have moved on generally stay gone. Apparently the dung sweeper is wearing on me.
Takes a tremendous amount of power to go through any of the realms. If a spirit has moved from this realm to the next, or an inner realm or an outer realm, I can only imagine the amount of force, power, sheer determination needed to break through that barrier. I can't imagine this is a small task.
That's why they've got to have a proper burial.
Well then, I'm pleased for my part to be part of this, and I hope that we find this magical item sooner rather than later, so we can all go about our business.
Balance must be restored. I believe in
100%,
balance.
I really don't like cities. Really not a fan of the city.
They take about a century or two to get used to, but they're not so bad after that.
So noisy. Why is it so noisy?
There's
people.
People's good for a graveyard.
Well, I can understand that. You have a constant stream of business, but I'm just used to meadows and forests and fields and small settlements. I'm just not used to cities.
I do miss the quiet of the forest sometimes.
That why you kill people? Like, because you like the quiet in the forest?
I look at Reginald. Oh, and me?
I bury people. I don't kill zenies who ain't trying to kill me.
I don't just kill people.
You just disconnect them from the life force.
Those that need the encouragement, yes.
Encouragement.
Yes.
Well, you know what? I'm completely okay with you living in the forest.
Oh, don't worry. You don't need encouragement. Everything's fine. You don't need to be concerned.
Must admit, it is rare to see one of your folk I point at Ashflower. This far in the city.
Not normally a place I would definitely come. It's not a place I would find any of my kin. Normally, I mean, sometimes you can find one or two in a larger city, but never more than a small gathering. Never normally a gathering, really. It's just noisy. We like nature and the magical attunement of the world. We're not a fan of, and I look around the kind of the grey stones that are around us. We're not a fan of this. You know, this is the realm of humans and, you know, other races. This isn't our kind of. And yeah, okay, Regina, that's fair. But your people originally came from the forests. You
Yes,
specifically may
but
not
you
have.
don't have to be bound to.
Point to like Regina and.
Sorry,
damn it,
you don't
what's
have to
it
be
called?
bound from where you come from. You can do
No,
your own
absolutely.
thing.
Yes, no, I completely agree with that. Just like I
Yes.
know some lay walkers who have gone on and lived in small towns and settlements, but I've never met a lay walker I've never met one of my kin that is fond of large, noisy, bustling cities.
Maybe they
not
wouldn't
in
tell
us.
you. Because you're so judgmental about cities, so maybe they wouldn't tell you.
I'm not necessarily judgmental. I just know that they're horrible, stinking, noisy places.
See?
Don't know
Yeah.
nothing about no smell, friend.
Your advanced condition probably prohibits that.
You mean the way I was born?
Yes.
Well, that is going to be a lovely travel to the Enchantress. I can already see that.
I have interest, Reginald. How
It's rare to find. I mean, you find ghouls in the city, but most live and die, as it were, at the sepulchre.
I've rarely met ghouls in my pilgrimage, in my travels. Do you die naturally? Do you age?
Don't know. Never buried any of my own kind. My parents were alive last time I saw them.
Fascinating.
Of course, they'd been promoted and gone back to sepulchre, so I inherited the graveyard.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Just
And people tend not to go to graveyards, and people try to avoid ghouls, so...
I understand that. I get a few comments, pointed fingers if I go into a town or a settlement. Not a lot of people. And for one of the first times I actually whip the hood back that I've been wearing, you see it's not just a massive head, you see these horns sweeping out and back. It's like, these are very hard to hide from people who don't have them.
You're lucky they haven't worked up the courage to throw a rock yet.
Well, there's been times. I mean, I've never been chased with torches and pitchforks, but I've known some people who have been. There's many settlements in the northern lands and many mountain dwellers who believe that we are spirits of ill omen. There are other people who believe we are descendants of the great portal. We are children of the portal. That seems to be a big thing within my kin. And just generally imbued with magic. I mean, that is true. And I motion to the slightly glowing runes on my skin. That is technically true. But our true nature is a bit of a mystery to all of us, really.
Yep. No one knows how you becomes a ghoul, but you're born a ghoul. We're not dead, brought back to life. That's necromancy. We don't eat the corpses, although that's what some people think. Can you imagine?
Yes, everybody knows that.
I am ignorant enough to believe that is what I thought you did.
Ghouls don't need to eat. We just prepares the meat for burial, and we prepares the spirit for its journey.
Well, journey is a good word. We
fascinating.
should journey.
I continue on.
Yeah, Reginald's pretty worn out by this conversation. The longest he's had in about 60 years.
I love the conversation involves a quirky elf a ghoul and a lay walker that never talked to anyone, and then Regina, who gets into fights with everyone who looks at her the wrong way. It's a tremendous combo. Like,
Brilliant.
This party's diplomacy stats are off the chain.
Yes, and now we go talk to somebody. It's going to be wonderful.
It's going to be great, especially someone who doesn't like visitors. Yeah, it's going to be great. Just before we get into exploration, folks who have just joined us in chat, you are watching episode 269 of Pen and Pixels. This is Talisman Adventures, sponsored by Pegasus Spiele. I am joined as always by the truly delightful group of friends and players, Pyron J, Darksaber2K, Peripheral Mike, and Tasty Chai. If you like what you are seeing here, please let us know. Please let GOG and the powers that be know. Please make sure to tweet about it. This is awesome. You should go see this more often. I want GOG to do this all the time, blah, blah, blah. You should do that. And you should also, if you can, follow and support the channel in other ways, because we are very grateful to GOG for allowing us to do this and giving us the space to do this. And we hope that it is meeting with your approval as we go through. And thanks for being here. So this gives us a chance to talk a little bit then about, I'm glad, Major Makoto. We love it. I love it when we do it too, because I'm a little bit of a tabletop role-playing nut. Maybe a little bit. I may have a little problem. A small soupçon of a problem. So we get to talk about the exploration rules, folks. And this is something new within the Talisman system. Although it is actually funny because it's reminiscent to me of something which Adventures in Middle-earth does, although AIME is a 5e based rule system as opposed to Talisman Adventures. So when you set out on a journey, officially defined as such, you have to decide, there's two things to keep in mind. First of all, journeying in Talisman, as is the case in the board game, is a difficult proposition. There are not a lot of settlements. That's why we have the city and not like, New York, Chicago, London, et cetera, right? Like Berlin. Like, we're not talking about big cities here. We're talking about the city. And the second thing to keep in mind is that it is very easy to get lost and to have difficulty with finding food and things like that. And so the game covers for all of this by, first of all, setting up a certain number of days that a trip is going to take. Now, you do not know because you are going out to find the Enchantress, and so you don't know for sure. But because Reginald actually succeeded quite well on his check, Reginald is actually going to get a bonus if he chooses the role I'm about to explain. And Reginald can give you the rough idea that this ought to be, if the Enchantress is where Reginald thinks that she ought to be, about a 2-day journey, roughly speaking, from the city, if all goes well. So what that means is that on a daily basis, you're going to be making a couple of rolls based upon the role, ROLE, that you have decided to choose for yourself. So there are 3 roles that characters can choose from when exploring: the guide, the watcher, and the hunter. Not all of these roles have to be filled, and not every character has to take on a role. The only role that you really have to have is the guide, because otherwise you just wander around in circles forever and don't get anywhere. So you do need a guide. Now, what I'm going to say is, and you may choose despite this not to have Reginald be your guide, but because Reginald succeeded so well on this check, Reginald, if you serve as guide, you will get a +2 to guide-related checks. So that may be something you choose to take advantage of, but, we'll see. So what the guide does is the guide makes decisions about where to go and which trail to follow. And the time for the journey that you guess it is, about 2 days, may change based upon how well or poorly you specifically, the guide, whoever that turns out to be, performs their job. The guide sets the pace for travel using the assistance of a map or working from memory. And each day, the guide is going to make either a lore, which is wits, or a survival insight test against difficulty of 14. This is referred to as a guide test. A character using lore represents the character's general knowledge of the world, like roads and terrain and stuff like that. And if you're using survival, it means you're relying on your knowledge of the natural world to choose the fastest route. The only thing I would say narratively is you can make either decision you want as to whether your character would feel more comfortable in natural surroundings, or whether your character is more like, look, the map says go straight, and so we're going to go straight, and I'm following the GPS come hell or high water, right? So it's going to be up to what you want to do narratively. Now, so you have to do that. One other character can assist the guide in doing their guidely duties, but that is important. And the way that this works, and by the way, Chad, I'm only going to explain this full thing once, but I want to explain it since we haven't encountered it before. If you fail the test, the party is lost or delayed for a day, and it may even incur a hazard that you're going to have to overcome, and we'll talk about that. If you get a standard success, it means that you travel at full speed with no delay, although if you were to roll on your Kismet die a 1, I might be able to introduce a hazard, depending on whether I feel like it. On a great success, the party travels at full speed with no delay. And if you got a great success and also a Kismet die bonus, then that like a 6, that means that you might discover an interesting location. And I have a set of possible locations that you might discover along the way. And an extraordinary success, which is where you roll triples and pass. So triple ones doesn't help you. But if you roll enough to pass that difficulty and you've rolled triples, then it means that you find a shortcut, which means that you, A, reduce travel time by half a day, and B, you may also find an interesting location you can choose to check out if you wish to. Okay? So that's what the guide does. So the guide is obviously very important. Other 2 roles are watching and hunting. The Watcher keeps a lookout for potential enemies, looking for tracks, scanning the horizon, staying alert for the presence of others, and so on. One character acts as the Watcher by attempting a notice, which is wits-based, test against, again, difficulty 14, and a second character can assist. Keep in mind, though, a second character can assist 2 people doing 2 things. So there's 4 of you, there's 3 roles, and that means one of you can assist in one of them, but not multiples. So just be aware of, you'll have to kind of plot that out amongst yourselves. If you fail on the watch test, it means you, get ready for it, encounter an enemy. That shouldn't be a surprise. Also, you're more likely to be surprised by the enemy because you didn't do it. A standard success means you discover the presence of a nearby enemy, and once I determine the type of enemy, you can make a survival check to identify it. If you're successful, the Watcher can choose whether to encounter the enemy or avoid it. And so that's the way that works. There is always a chance that the enemy might pick up your trail and try to ambush you later, but to the best of your knowledge, you can try to avoid it if, as I say, you have a standard success and then you succeed on identifying the enemy. On a great success, you discover the presence of a nearby enemy. On a successful roll, you will again be able to choose whether to encounter or avoid the enemy, but if you encounter the enemy, you will get a bonus to the test on ambushing them. So you can basically set up an ambush to see that this happens. And that's great or extraordinary success does the same thing. So that's the deal with the Watcher. You can, of course, not set a watch. It just makes it quite likely that you're going to find an enemy as you do this. And then the last thing is a hunter. A hunter forages and hunts for food as they travel. Each day, a hunter makes a survival insight or an archery, if any of you have that agility test. Failure means no game or foraging, which means you have to use a ration from that you've got stored up beforehand. Success means the hunter doesn't need to use a ration that day. And great success means the hunter doesn't need to use a ration and the party gains additional rations, which can be saved or used by another character. Last point to make about exploration is that a single character can perform 2 exploration roles instead of 1. So someone could be the hunter and the watcher, or the watcher and the guide, or something like that. But the character will suffer a -2 penalty on each test, and you can never get greater than a standard success. So this is not a great option. It's what you have to do if you have to do it, basically. Yes, Pyron, you're going to ask.
How many rations does the hunter get on a standard success?
On a standard success, the hunter will get 1 ration, and that means that the hunter doesn't need to use a ration that day. On a great success, not only will the hunter not have to use a ration, but the party will also get additional rations that other people can use. So basically, it just... Yeah.
Reginald doesn't have to eat, right?
I'll clarify this with Arvin now. So I did scour the rules on this note because obviously ghouls by their nature seem to be a bit of a special case. I only found some reference in some of the player lore sections that said ghouls don't eat or drink.
Yeah, I would say that ghouls would not have to eat. So I'd say you're lucky in that regard.
Okay.
And so if he is, I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. So if he is our guide.
Right.
Then if everybody else hunts everybody else would not be using up rations.
If they succeed on those checks, because remember, each one of them has to make a check. Each hunter would have to make a check. And
yes, but a standard success is already sufficient to feed yourself.
That's correct. I mean, without using a ration that you brought with you. So yeah.
Okay.
Now, last note, and then you can all discuss what it is that you'd like to do. You will also have to camp, and if it takes 2 days, you'd have to camp at least once. Trying to avoid camping is going to cause detriments to you the next day. So you're going to have to camp at a certain point, presumably out in the plains. There are, and there's basically a likelihood to see whether you're going to have an encounter or not. But you folks can set a watch like you would in D&D. People who are on watch can make a notice test to determine whether or not there is a creature stalking them or that they can see out there. So that's the deal with that. And I won't talk about hazards or specific items until and unless we get to that point. But that's the deal. So you have probably 2 days of exploration, depending on how things go, before you can find the Enchantress. And again, you're looking specifically for, in this case too, for a person, not a place. So that's the other thing. I mean, you're looking for, she's apparently in some kind of like tiny hut or something. So you're looking for her. So it'll be a little bit different than what a normal thing would be. But otherwise, that's the basic idea. So you can divide roles as you like, make decisions about who wants to do what. And as I say, the only bonus that you have up front is the fact that if Reginald is the guide, Reginald will get +2 to act as guide on this journey only because of his knowledge of the Enchantress.
I would say that's a good bonus to take.
I would also carefully say that Regina is not the best character in anything that requires notice. In anything that requires notice.
Just to clarify as well, so you said Law uses wits. What would survival use?
Insight.
Right. Law it is then. For that. Okay, well, I knows the general direction we need to be heading.
Well, I can feed myself if need be. I make skewering motions with my spear.
I could always forage.
I'm sure that
We
there
find somewhere.
are berries or salad on the ground. I'm sure that I could find something.
Those are the two options: berries or salad.
Berries or salad.
On the ground. Look over there. It's from Chopped.
I intently look at Muriel. Do you have rations?
Well, I have a water bottle.
Yes.
Yes, I do. It is empty. But I have one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, does anybody else have rations? Ashflower moves his
I
paw.
don't. No.
You don't have rations.
No, I don't.
Okay, well, we're doing really well. I like this. Reginald, do you have rations?
Ghouls don't need to eat.
Yeah, that's what you claim. Okay. This. Oh well, you know.
So I put my traveling robe on and start moving off. And for reference, my traveling robe is a black robe, and I'm carrying my weapon, which is a scythe.
Have ever people talk to you about your outfit?
Don't travel much.
I just look at Reginald. I'm like, it's a little on the nose, isn't it?
What you mean?
Never mind. Never mind.
Don't have a nose.
Moving on. Moving on.
You might have several by all I've heard about ghouls.
Nah.
Just in a jar.
Cataloging body parts is more the work of the sepulchre.
Oh, but maybe we should provide Muriel with some water and rations before we leave. Maybe. Muriel, you like eating, do you? Like, at least sometimes?
Occasionally, yeah. I mean, as long as I don't forget, because sometimes I take really long naps and then I forget, and then it's been like a few days since I ate, but I'm used to that, and it's okay because then I just like I take another nap while I'm hungry, and then I wake up and I'm not hungry anymore. So it just keeps going like that, and then I have pictures that happen, and then eventually I use those pictures to find food. So there's eventually food, always, at some point.
Is this in favor or against buying rations?
I mean, I should we could buy something if there's something to buy.
Okay.
I will require sustenance if we are to travel. I have this, and I pull out my 1 gold piece.
This is something you can use to buy rations. I'm not sure about sustenance, though.
Traveling food. I literally, I'm handing it to Regina. I'm like, could you buy traveling food for me?
Well, yes, I can buy things. I can do this. Is there any specific thing you eat?
Food. Just general rations will be fine.
Do you like cheese?
Yes.
Well, there we go.
I love cheese. Oh,
Correct. You do like cheese.
Oh, it's so good.
Hey, yes. Wow, we found common ground.
Ooh, do you like it on brown bread too? Spready cheese on brown bread. Oh, that's so yummy. Oh, we should go get some of that.
Okay, yes, cheese and brown bread. These are good. Traveling rations. I'll now go and buy those. I will leave with your money, and I promise I'll be back.
Thank you, stranger. I only met a few minutes ago.
Wait, I'll follow you. I don't think you can carry it. It's gonna be a lot. There are 2 of us.
Okay. Yes. I also did a thinking thing. And I want to tell you about it because I think it's great. Did you know that spirit is just 1 letter away from sprite?
It is. And that was beautiful.
I don't deal much with sprites, though.
Hey, with me. Like, completely. That's fine. That's like, fine. Okay, let's buy some rations. Okay, I'll go and buy some rations. I'm gonna buy some apple brown food and cheese because this is something these people might eat.
Okay, so you're going to make your way then in the city to a place where you can find places to get for food. A lot of the places charge something similarly. It's usually about a gold piece, for a week's worth of rations that should be able to last long enough. So you can pay a gold for a week's worth of rations. Now, that's a week's worth of rations for 1 person, though, not a week's worth of rations for the party. So, given that, what would you like to get, Regina, or what kind?
Muriel, do you have your own gold piece that we could maybe spend on rations?
I sure do. I have 5 of them. We're not going to use 5. We're going to use 1.
Yes, we're going to use 1 for you, and we're going to use 1 for the ash flower.
Yeah. Wait, what are you going to eat?
Oh, I'll just skewer things and then heat them up on the fire, and then I'm going to eat them. That's fine. This whole carrying food around, if you can carry alcohol instead, just seems a waste of space.
Oh, wait, I'm carrying your alcohol.
Do you? Yeah, that is fine. You're doing a good job.
Yeah.
In a minute, you'll be carrying her food too.
I will be. That's true.
I'm not. Okay, so let's do this. Let's buy 1 week of rations for you and 1 week of rations for the ash flower, of nice things like apples, brown bread, and cheese.
And you do find some the bread is it's a little hard, the bread, but it's durable. That's how you would describe it, a durable loaf of bread. And also you have what looks like an equally durable wheel of cheese that can be used, and perhaps could double as a combat item. But you think it'll probably be good to last for about a week's time. And you were able to do this. Now I will mention that none of you are particularly weighed down by things at the moment, and I'm not going to make a big thing of encumbrance or load. I will say that usually to do this takes about one load, which is fine. You have room for multiple more of that. Be aware though that if you were, for example, to have to swim across a river and that sort of thing, and you're like, unless you're carrying the bags over the head, you could ruin some food down the Rhine. So you'll need to think a little bit about that.
So, Muriel, please also fill your water bottle.
Oh, yes. Is there a stream or a fountain or something?
They
There should
will
be public fountain.
There is a public fountain. Also, they'd be willing to give you some water that they are able to freshly tap here at the place where you buy the food. They throw that in for free. So.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, and no, she did not say brown rat and cheese. Although, city. I mean, look, it's not beyond the realm of possibility.
Depends on what preserved it is. If it travels well, we'll take it.
It's true, actually. Okay. So now you have a guide. So you've got your guide. I think you're making Reginald, right? Using lore, I believe. And then you've got your hunter. So Regina, you're going to hunt for yourself, I think, if I understood that correctly.
I'm gonna hunt. I've got a special skill for it and I want to use it.
Got it. So that leaves us at, what's up, Hilness? That leaves us with Ashflower and Muriel. Which one of you, if either, is going to be the Watcher? The Watcher in the water.
What skill does Notice use?
So for Watcher, the checks that you're going to be making is not that. It's actually, it is that. I'm sorry. It's Wits. So Notice Wits.
Wits. I am quite adept at standing watch, so I don't mind doing that.
Okay.
I'm also incredibly still.
All the time. Just like a statue. You make all the money in the town squares with the living statue thing.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. So let me just jump back up here to... I want to double check here on the assistance because I want to make sure I know about assistance again. Oops. Okay. Right. Which is assist action is 40. Right. Give me just one sec while I find that. So that means, Muriel, if you want to be able to assist, I
was actually going to say, because I'm a lore keeper, that's my background, I get an additional roll on lore. And if I could use that to assist, that would be super cool.
Okay. So, yeah, I would say, let's see, let's talk about...
Or I could just do a standard lore roll.
So yeah, what you're doing, you're using an appropriate skill for this is how that would be. And when you're assisting another character, you basically roll 1d6, and if the result is equal to or lower than the skill which you're using to assist, then you add the number on that die to the other character's roll. So you're looking for your skill, you roll a die. If you get equal to or lower than it succeeds, and you can add that to the other person's roll. So that's as the sort of you'll be essentially the I don't know, in football it'd be in European world football it'd be like the sweeper, right? Like kind of just roam from side to side. You need some help with hunting, got some watch going on, some guiding, that type of thing.
So what is a lore roll? Which attribute does that use?
Lore would be wits, I believe.
Wits. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Usually is wits. Okay. And so now that we have that, all right, so let's get to the first day of this as you all set out. And actually, let's get some appropriate music for this.
To check,
Mm-hmm.
we haven't rested for 15 minutes at any point yet, really, have we?
I don't believe
Could
so.
we? We have like a 15...
before taking off, I imagine.
Yeah. Cool, because I can just restore 1d6 spell points on a short rest. So
That would be, assuming your party has no objection, that's fine with me.
Was it d6 or d4?
He could have rested while we were buying food, so why not?
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably going to take longer than 15 minutes. So
yeah,
I assumed that Regina and Muriel would be going to buy the necessaries.
I was just waiting for the
Reginald
shop
as
to
well.
catch fire outside.
Wrong character.
I don't know. Jury's still out on this one. Regina buying food. Cut to 5 minutes later, someone comes backwards through the window.
Okay. Right.
What was the rest?
So you can do that. All right. So let's make it happen. As you folks set out on the way, now you were crossing over, and I'll show you where here. You were crossing over basically these right here, these plains, and to the best of your understanding, I'm going to draw this out for you. To the best of your understanding, Reginald, it's going to look something like this. If all goes well, you would go up this way. And somewhere in here, in these plains that you can see, is where you should find the Enchantress if you're, if you had to guess. Because she's not going to want to hang out in the swamp. The hills might be difficult for her to get the stuff that she needs. In the plains, she's got access to be able to get what she needs and get back there close enough. She's also that much closer to this enormous river that is, of course, in the center of the realm. And her strange magical journeys may take her there as well. So your best guess is that you just skirt the Split Oak Woods, you stay to the east, and you're able to just go straight up through the plains and then arrive there. And if all goes well, you'll find her and everything will be great. No doubt that's exactly how it'll go down in practice. So we'll see if that actually occurs. Okay. So we're going to begin then. As you make your way out there, I will mention that the terrain here as you start, as you leave the city behind you, the hustle and the bustle of the city, I assume Ashflower feels more relieved as you get, further away from it. But as you're moving away from it, you notice that the terrain is broken up by this occasional copse of trees. Off to the northwest, you can see the Split Oak Woods. To the east, you can see the ocean, the sea, which surrounds the realm. And so you're making pretty good progress. But there's not a lot to look at. A shimmering brook, a rocky outcropping. It's a wilderness here, and there aren't the number of landmarks that one might hope to have. And so as you proceed along, Guide, I'm going to come to you first and ask you to make a check for me. So let me pull out.
Ignore that one. That was a misclick.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, my PDF just screwed up on me. Page level. A little bit further. Okay, good. Cool. All right, so I'm going to ask you to make a check for me. I think you said you were going to do lore wits because you didn't want to do the survival insight one, I believe.
Yeah, wits is my better stat for that. So no, not 33d6, although that'd be...
You succeed.
3d6 plus 4. Here we go. Oof!
Oof, meaning
Triple.
The triples. An extraordinary success. I mean, no joke. So you're just you feel sort of cutting through. Okay, so first of all, you find a shortcut that basically is this little, it looks like a little valley from a distance that looks like a cleft in the land that most people would have avoided. But what you have discovered is that what it does is it cuts out a lot of the rolling hills that would slow you down and that make visibility more difficult. This actually kind of is almost like you found the straight path to, directly to where you need to go. And so that makes things quite possible for you. In addition, if you wish, you may also have an opportunity here to stop by an interesting location. So I'm going to, as you're going along, we're going to talk about that. I think that's the first extraordinary success we've had so far, so well done there.
I'm pretty sure that is, yeah.
So let me get to this here, just a second. Someone has been making offerings to RNGesus. Yes, exactly, Geezer. I think that is the case. Okay, so that's what I was looking for. So, that's the wrong page. This is the right page. It's not the right page. That's the right page, I think. It's not giving me the right page, sorry.
Reginald, hitherto known as Wormhole Pathfinder.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. So,
I think I like that better than rolling a nat 20 as well.
Yeah, that is impressive. Let's see.
It's prettier, isn't it? Just like visually more.
And it matched up. Do I get any special bonus for it matching it with my +4 modifier as well?
Possibly. I mean, it's just super extraordinary. Okay. So let's double check. Were you talking about? I was just looking to see. Yeah, it looks like I dropped a couple of frames back there. The internet's been pretty good here, but that may have just happened. I think we're okay now. Okay. So I'm going to talk about the Watcher's role that I'm going to need the Watcher to make in a minute. But as you're making your way through this little cleft and probably feeling rather smug about yourself, Reginald, I would say, as you're just like going through and like, I know what I'm doing. You suddenly come clear of the cleft a little bit and to the northeast of you, basically closer to the ocean or heading towards the sea. You can see the crumbling ruins of what looks like an ancient castle rising from the ground. There are only a few rising pillars and an archway and maybe the foundation that remain, but you can see it from there. Now, it may be that that's, a perfect place for, let's say, a bunch of goblins or bandits to hang out, or it could also be a place where a dungeon might be, or it could be a place where you won't find anything at all. But it is something that you've noted, and given the number of, rivers, streams, rocks, and everything else that you've found so far, it is different than the stuff that you've encountered to this point. It is not likely you're going to find the Enchantress in a place like this, but it is something which is sort of a side note type of thing that you notice. So you can let your party know that if you wish. Then I'll talk to them about the Watcher.
Well, the good news is we've moved further than I anticipated. The interesting news is there's some ruins over there. I know nothing of these ruins.
Me neither. I have nothing to do with that.
I have no interest in disturbing the ruins.
I don't know anything about them either, which is confusing and also refreshing. We should go there.
Well, I mean, we will need to rest for sooner or later, and maybe doing it inside some walls would be nice.
Not if they're ruined. That's not going to work.
Well, for me it does. They don't have to be really high.
Technically, you could just rest in somebody's pocket. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that. I will just walk away now.
Wow.
So unusual to find such animosity between elves and sprites.
Oh, it's not animosity. It's just I'm not trying to be mean. I think she's really cute, and I'm sort of jealous that she could fit inside someone's pocket because it sounds nice to take a nap right now, but I totally can't fit inside someone's pocket. I just I'm gonna
fold you into somebody's pocket. I can fold you into somebody's pocket.
Oh, I didn't mean for you to be mad. At this point, she just like fades to the back of the party, continuing to mumble to herself.
Right.
Having a shelter would be a good idea. We could investigate the ruins and see if they are habitable.
If they are what?
What time of day would it be right now?
It is now heading on to, actually, not that far off from the time of day it is right now, where I can see the sun setting outside my window. I would say you could see the sun setting. Your guess probably, Reginald, is it would be maybe a half hour to get to these ruins, if you had to guess. And I haven't talked about the Watcher yet, but the Watcher, we're going to speak about. The Watcher, basically the role for the Watcher is going to be noting anything that may be around those ruins. So
night's coming.
Yeah, and I would like now to have like really nice high walls and not a pocket.
How about a sack?
So
What? No! What is it with you people?
It's bigger than a pocket.
Yes. I mean, I will not rule out that you meet people in sacks.
Coffins, mostly.
So yeah, I can see. I can see where that is coming from, but please no. Let's go and use the walls. With the hobbits that Ashflower talked about.
habitable, not hobbitable.
Well, with
See
the
what you did there?
habits.
With the habits, yeah. Let's go see if it can be shelter, and then we'll see.
In a hole in the ground there lived a habit.
In a hole in the ground.
Not a
there lived
dry,
habit.
dusty habit. So...
Or a dirty wet hole. This was a habit hole, and that meant comfort.
That meant ritual. It's funny because we just had a Mad Libs done with Triffity Mats, who's my mod over there on that channel, which was great. It was really funny. Hey, what's up, Dizzy? Okay. So I'm going to have the Watcher now is going to be looking out for potential enemies, and this is a perfect time narratively to do it as they're heading in. So the Watcher, I believe, is Ashflower.
Hello.
So the question is whether, now I know Chai just had to step away, but the question is whether Muriel wants to assist on this, or because we also have hunting, which Regina, you would probably do right after this watch check is made. So, yeah. Yeah,
so
Muriel,
you're
are you
asking
assisting
if I
on
can-
either? That's okay, that's no problem. Are you assisting on either the hunt or no, I shouldn't say and. You could do and, but it's not good. The hunt, or do you wish to assist on the watch?
I don't need it.
What would the checks be there? Let me just see if I can even help.
Okay. The Watcher's check would be a notice wits test.
Okay. And let's just say I can't hunt worth a dang, so I could maybe do a wits check.
Yeah, because that would be survival, insight, or archery agility for hunting, which probably is not a good
Yeah,
thing.
no, that's a 1 for me, so
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
not do that.
Yes.
Okay.
So
I
if you're going to assist on that, then go ahead and make that check.
So I got a 2 and my wits is 3. Does that mean I succeeded?
That means you'll be able to add 2, yes. So you'll be
Okay,
able to
cool.
add 2 to the Watcher's roll. So now, Ashflower, you're going to be making a check, rolling that 3d6. Last die is the Kismet die. And you're going to be trying to beat a difficulty 14 with that bonus of 2 added to it. Sorry, I think you're muted.
Yes, I am on mute.
Okay.
Is this a wits test? Did you say?
Yes, the wits,
I'm-
and it is notice. So, yes.
I don't have focus and notice.
So that's fine. So it's a notice.
So it's just
parentheses wits.
So is it 3 dice and wits and the extra 2?
That is. Yes, that's right.
So it's my wits and the bonus.
That's correct.
Muriel's
Because
assisting me.
of Muriel's
Excellent.
assistance. Yeah.
So if I just do a straight 3d6 plus 5, because it's my 3 and Muriel's 2.
I think that's right. And then that
Okay,
last die is the
and-
Kismet
okay.
one.
And the last die is a Kismet die. Excellent. Advanced dice roller. 3d6.
Oh, I was looking at another incredible success. Okay. Still, that is a 14 plus the 5. So, yeah, not only
It's
do
a,
you...
it's a double.
It's
It's
a
a
double,
double.
right? Exactly. So you get a
Yes.
great success out of that.
Didn't
So
die.
I am going to see what we've got going on here. Let me see what we have in this place. Okay. All right. As you are, so I'm going to talk about what you see, and then because of your success, what that means for you. Then we'll come back to the hunter last, Regina. I haven't forgotten about you. As you're making your way into the castle slowly, you hear from a distance, Ashflower, this. Nah. Now, I've had that, and as it gets closer, it starts to kind of become a little bit clearer. And I actually need to double check. Now I need to remember about languages, which I think are a thing. here?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I want to make
It's a
sure
group of comments.
I want to make sure that we actually had that. So, what languages do you speak, Ashflower?
Bear with me. Languages. I don't know.
I don't know. Why? See, I want that. That's why I wanted to double check and see.
I did not see that when I was creating my character.
Code for languages.
Oops. Laywalker.
Yeah, let me double check because languages may not be a thing in Talisman. Again, these are things that once we figure them out, chat, we don't have to do them again.
Yes, absolutely. We only ever have
Yeah,
to
I just search for language and I can't find anything really.
No, I don't think it's a thing.
No, only thing I find is a reference for body language and targeting a creature with a capacity for language.
I find that very odd. Okay, well, there's a decipher thing. All right, for now, it's not a big deal either way because. Oh, go ahead, Mike. What were you gonna say?
No, it's just in decipher as far as I can see, just languages, focuses languages.
So what you hear then as you get a little bit closer and the voices become more distinct is what are clearly two creatures talking to each other, or really yammering at each other might be a better way to put it. So, and one of them is like, "Now, I told you it's not a good place to be. You have too many people around, too many creatures, anything could come." You shut up. Here we've got walls, we got places to look. Nothing can come on us. We'll see everything. This is a fortress. It's our fortress. It's not a fortress. There's not even any walls. Look. Look. You don't know what you're talking about. If we're up to you, we'd sleep where we did last night. In a ditch. Yeah? Well, at least in a ditch, I don't have to worry about getting ambushed. Here, anything could jump down at me from the walls, from this. So you're hearing this yammering back and forth of this one high-pitched voice and somewhat rather deep voice, but clearly only two voices, Ash. And as you kind of make your way sort of around and up, are you doing anything in particular to kind of, take note of, like see more? Like, what are you doing to try to visualize better what you're hearing? It's definitely coming from the ruins.
Am I in the front? Am I taking watch as in we are
I assumed you were,
ruins,
because that was what this was,
I'm taking point, right?
Right, Reginald technically is, but you're now that Reginald's like there, then you're using your watch knowledge. Maybe you're alongside Reginald, but one of the front two.
Okay, so I will move slowly. Did you say there's a corner and that's where I can hear the voices coming from?
You could actually hear it before that because they're speaking really loudly. For this, we don't want to be ambushed. It like echoes, ambush, like we, rah, rah, rah. So you can hear them yammering from quite a distance.
That's fine. I'll make like a stopping hand motion to everybody else, kind of behind me, sort of like that. And I'll make another motion to say towards the voices, and then like a listening motion. Hopefully people understand like something over there, listen.
What?
Regina, where are you in regards to me at the minute?
I'm most likely at the end of the column.
Okay, I will bend down a bit and motion you towards me.
I suspiciously come closer.
That's fair enough. I draw my short sword. No.
Yeah, well, I draw my spear.
I motion you towards me and I whisper, "Voices up ahead."
What?
Yeah, that's right. I said it, and I'd say it again. It's not a good one as Blarg. Blarg is the best. Whatever. Blarg was married last season. What's he done since they left him? I don't know, but he took off 3 dwarf heads by himself, and that's better than anything that Blorg ever did. Well, Blorg at least didn't leave his team in the lurch when he needed them to. Give me that rat. And you hear this squeaking, which is suddenly cut short. And then you hear this terrible crunching sound. And then, I'm telling you, someone is like chewing through a mouthful of food.
I look at Ashflower with sudden understanding in my eye, move closer and whisper, "He's right. Blarg is a great gladiator."
I just hold my head in my hands.
Thanks for letting me know. And he's the winner. So I also want to mention mechanically, by the way, because because you've successfully identified this Ashflower, it means that you can now make a survival test to identify these voices. And if you can do so successfully, you'll have the choice whether to encounter these creatures or not.
Okay. How do survival again?
So that's survival, which is again
so
wits.
many things open on my screen.
That's okay. It's survival, which is a wits test. So it's a test again,
Wits test,
3d6. And this one,
3d6.
unfortunately, you can't get another assist on because Muriel is
No, that's
already
fine.
doing the assisting.
That's absolutely fine. I will do a survival test to try and identify them. So 3d6 plus my wits.
Right.
Advanced. Yep. Let's see what that is. It's a 15.
Yeah, that's
six
enough.
a 6 on the Kismet die.
Oh, okay. Well, that means, first of all, that you're going to get a light fate, is what that means. So you have 2 now. So, yeah, you can definitely determine that these are almost certainly goblins. You've heard them at times, Ash, in your wanderings through the forest. Sometimes goblins wander, although never too far into the forest because they find it very scary and dangerous. Goblins, a lot of the goblins you encounter tend to be sort of cruel and cowardly, and most of them spend their time running from everything else until they can gang up on them, and then they do so. They're very good at ganging up on things. It's actually a little unusual that there are only 2. Usually the goblins, walk around in groups of 4 or 5 or 6 because they're usually not much of a threat, at least individually. But you definitely only hear, at the moment, 2 goblins.
Okay. If I can do this quietly, mechanically, because I'm aware that the rules might be slightly different, can I draw my short sword quietly?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Mhm.
I draw my short sword quietly.
Because you're still an okay distance from them because they are clearly not making any attempt whatsoever to conceal their voices.
That's fine. Regina's already aware. I will lean towards Reginald and towards Muriel, and I say whisper, it's probably like a hushed tone, 2 goblins ahead of us.
They have invaded our ruins.
Were they our ruins?
Technically not our ruins.
Well, not now because
But,
they have invaded them.
I have no problems ending the life of goblins. They're not nice creatures.
You can't just kill somebody because he's not nice.
I can when they cut down my trees.
I don't think they cut down your trees.
But they've done worse. They just killed a rat.
How is that worse? I will kill rats. Oh.
I'm just looking at Regina right now.
Time for ambush rules with Layflower assassins and with Laywalker assassins.
It disrupts the balance.
What? Killing rats disrupts the balance?
Yes.
No.
The balance of nature must be maintained.
I'm pretty sure animals being killed is part of the balance of nature.
Animals, killing animals is part of the balance.
Eating rats.
The sentient races disrupt the balance.
I gotta hold one hand up that's not holding the sword. I'm like, okay, bigger picture. I don't really mind about the rats. More the fact that goblins are normally inherently quite cruel creatures. I say we go in there, we see if they leave. If they don't, we can convince them.
Okay. Let's convince them.
Do you have something sharp and pointy to convince them with?
Several things.
Excellent. Then we're going to get along just fine in this encounter.
You hear, what do you think happens when Weevils gets a hold of them? Whatever. Weevils ain't nothing anyway. You better not let him hear you saying that, or he's gonna be ticked off enough to take off your head instead. Think about what he did to them last week. A bunch of cowards. Let's see what happens if Weevil was here. If I had Weevils in front of me, I'd tell him to step back. That's what I'd do. Oh yeah? Then why is he behind you? What? Shut up! Don't do that again. And you hear another squeak that's eerily cut short.
don't think they sound so bad.
I reckon we all walk out once.
Oh, well then, let's go and introduce ourselves to them.
Okay.
You want to go first?
Yes.
I'll be right behind you.
Okay.
I'll bring up the rear with Boots, so I realise we've not mentioned this entire session.
We have not
Or
talked about
Boots.
Boots so far. That's right.
That's a good
No.
point, Boots. You want to just remind everyone who Boots is?
Boots is Reginald's ghost or spirit dog companion. He was a stray dog that wandered into the mortuary. I've tried to think the word for a second then. Wandered into the mortuary, the family mortuary one day, and wouldn't leave in the most literal sense. He stayed until he died, and then he stayed after he died, and just refuses to accept the fact that he is dead. He is still just a dog that for some reason can now walk through walls in his brain. Or mind, I guess.
Yeah, he's the goodest boy also.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I pick up a huge rock.
Boots wags his tail.
This is gonna be awesome.
I step around the corner.
Okay.
With my sword
I
drawn.
fly behind him with a rock that is certainly bigger than I am.
I was gonna say, like holding it over you, so it just looks like
Yeah.
a flying rock above his head. Like,
Meanwhile, the ghost dog thinks he's playing fetch.
Just me and my rock, just coming around the corner with the ash flower.
me and my rock. So when you walk around the corner, and you step out, you can see that there are indeed two goblins that are sitting on what look like two fairly decent-sized rocks on the ground. They have tattered leather armor and tattered leather armor, and they have a couple of what look like rusty short swords that are lying next to them, and they are around what could maybe charitably be called a campfire, if sort of. There's embers of it left, and you can see that there are several half-eaten creatures that are on the ground, almost certainly rats probably, and several sticks. And in fact, one such stick is held in one of the goblins' mouth, who's like this. When he sees you, he's like, and the other, and he immediately looks, kind of glances back and forth to his companion. And his companion's like, "Brr," and draws his sword and just kind of doesn't stand, but he just kind of tries to stumble back a little bit, and as he's still sort of sitting, it's kind of like this. Oh, come in closer. We're well trained, we is.
I raise one hand and I say, "You have the choice of leaving now if you wish to take it."
And the other one
The goblins notice as Ashflower says that behind them is a billowing robe and a scythe.
So wait, I just want to be clear that I've got this set in my mind. So we've got Ashflower in front.
Basically
we have got
a goat man.
a hitman. We've got a floating rock behind him, right, being carried by Regina, and then Reginald with a billowing. Is Muriel like what? What? Where is
Yeah, pretty
Muriel in all
much.
this?
I have a mace, so I'm just like, hi.
Right. Okay.
I'm with them.
I'm with them. So okay. There we go. So they they sort of look at you for a moment, and the one who has got the the stuff that's in the stuff in his mouth kind of gradually lowers it, and he's like, and he spits out some chunk of unidentified something, and says, look, there's no reason for misunderstandings. We're here, and you're there, and and his eyes are kind of flickering back and forth between the floating rock, the billowing cloak of Reginald, Ashflower, and then the occasionally grinning Muriel, with the mace in one hand. These ruins are big enough for both of us. Why don't you just go to that corner, and we'll stay on this corner, and we'll leave in the morning. It's like a hostel in the city. except cheaper. And you don't have to sign any forms. What do you say? How's that sound?
How far away from them am I?
I would say when you came around the corner, you're probably a good 50 feet from them. 60
wow,
feet.
that's quite. Okay, that's quite a way then.
Yeah, no, there wasn't like right around because, like I said, they were very loud. So, yeah.
So just give me a bit of a mental picture about this cave. Is it just cave?
It's not a cave.
Ruin.
This is still
ruin,
outside.
ruin.
So you're in these castle ruins.
I see.
They are up against one sort of like broken down wall, basically. And there's a bunch of just like you can see there is some burned out wood and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But this is most of the wood is destroyed. This castle has obviously, been fallen for a long time. And they are inside this one kind of ruin where the walls are up, broken, but above them, and sort of down on the ground with these half-eaten rats and their weapons by their side. And one of them has a stick with a half-eaten rat on it. And the other one has a sword, and is kind of like looking at you warily.
So they have the bigger walls, the better walls.
They do have the better walls. That is true.
I'm going to move towards them, and I'm going to continue. I have a hand up.
Hey! Oh, and he's like,
There's absolutely no reason to worry. But given my ancestry, I have a certain distrust of certain folk like goblins. I mean, you can understand sometimes my folk may have done wrong to your folk may have done wrong to my folk. It seems quite clear that I wouldn't want to spend the same time resting in somewhere where people that I didn't trust. And I'm continually moving forward as I say this. So
Okay.
let me know if they like freak
yeah,
out. and stop
they
moving.
are getting pretty freaked out. Do you have intimidate, Ashlar?
No, I have deception.
Are you trying to deceive them? It sounds to me like you're trying to please get out, or I will kill you.
I'm mechanically, I can reveal mechanically exactly what I would like to do.
Sure. Well, sure. I mean, mostly I'm looking to see about the deception part of it, but yes, that's fine.
Cool. I'm trying to distract them long enough so I can get within melee range, essentially. Then I'm going to give them a choice of
okay.
leaving or death.
Then I am going to ask you to. I'm going to ask you to make this would be deception wits test for me. If you have a focus in, let us say, bluff, I would take that.
I don't, but I do have the assassin skill treachery, which allows me to get a bonus die when making deception tests.
All right. It's time to be treacherous then.
It's going to be a deception test plus an extra die. So it's deception plus wits plus an extra die, correct?
Okay, that's correct.
That sounds right, doesn't it?
And remember that the Kismet is going to be the last of that first set of dice, though, not that
I'll
bonus
roll
die.
I'll roll 4 dice. The last of those 4 will be the Kismet die.
That's fine. I'd rather you do it this way. Roll the 3, make that the last one be the Kismet die, then roll the bonus die.
Okay,
Just for
that's
consistency.
absolutely fine. Whatever's good for you. So
it's probably being horribly pedantic, but
it's absolutely fine. I totally get it. So I'll do the straight roll, then the bonus die.
Yeah. Oh, dang. Now, see, that would have been good, except... Woo! All right, so first of all...
That's the worst roll you could possibly roll in
yeah,
this game.
that...
The best worst.
Now do the bonus. Okay.
There you go.
Right. So...
Ouch.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk about that. Well, we had the first triple... We had the first triple great success. We're about to have the first disastrous failure. No, I'm just kidding. Not disastrous, just,
melts.
Isn't a triple always good?
Not if you don't beat the number. And a 7 is not going to beat it, sadly. Plus one of those was the Kismet die, which means that
you get a dark fate.
It means I get a dark fate. Not that I would use that dark fate for something terrible. Okay. So...
Don't believe you.
Okay. That doesn't help me. Right, there we go. Let's see. Okay. All right, I'm not going to use that yet. But that means that on a failure. Okay, so I would say, so as you're moving in, you're like, all right, look, and you're all doing your, lay walker, like, subtle, like moving in, and you're preparing. And then you are prepared to get within melee range to basically prepare to launch an attack. Except that right behind you, you hear, in particular, okay, get him. And something keeps banging into the back of your head, and you realize that it's the massive rock that Regina has been holding, ready to. So as you sort of lean back, you sort of bang into it, and all of a sudden you trip and you sort of fall, and you reveal Regina's like, like this with the rock, and the goblin's like, ah! Swords out, and we have got some combat to get into.
Okay.
Now, the only problem with this is that we'll see how fast we run this, but we've only got... Although, wait, do we have anybody after us? I guess we don't, right?
No, because
Okay.
Erin is taking off.
Because Aaron took off, right? So, if need be, we could run a little longer if the party's okay with that. If you can't do that, it's up to you. I mean, if that's...
I'm okay running slightly over.
Okay.
I don't think this is going to be like the 4.5 hour.
No.
From our D&D,
I don't think we'll have a problem with that. Yeah, no. This is not an epic battle. I would say.
There's a potential rest at the end of this. We're all going to just use whatever we can.
Okay, right, exactly. These things have no idea what they've gotten themselves into.
I still have something the viewers haven't seen yet.
I haven't used anything yet.
Okay. What's up, Izzy's? Okay, so give me just 1 second. Okay, we've had this music has been great, and Green Forge has been great. Now it's time for something even greater, and that, of course, is Give to Me. There we go. All right. So. Okay. So, first of all, we are going to talk about engagement. We already know the circumstances here of the combat. I don't think we're going to have a surprise opportunity for anybody because you obviously knew they were there coming in. They now know that you're there, so I'm going to say that we're not in a position really for surprise to be able to occur in this situation. So that's going to bring us right here to step 2. So remember, the way this works is you're going to be rolling dice when you engage an enemy, and the success or failure of your roll will impact whether they hit you back. So combat is basically simultaneous rather than you roll, they roll, you roll, they roll, right? So what the characters are going to have a chance to do now then is to decide, first of all, your position. So none of you are engaged in the combat at the moment. You're getting engaged with it, so you can move freely up to your speed to engage an enemy. Any of you would be able to do this, I think, because you were all moving up behind. So even though your treachery roll failed, Ash, you're still close enough that, like, you're going to be able to get to them. So you would be able to engage whoever you wanted. So they are standing on the other side of this fairly large pile of ash and embers, but it's, like I said, just embers. It's not like flames or anything like that. There are some dead rats on the ground. It is somewhat uneven, the ground, with some dirt and some rocks, and there are 2 walls behind them. Otherwise, the terrain is fairly open, other than the 2 walls behind them. So given that, how would the players like to be engaged? Who wants to go with whom? There's 2 goblins and there's 4 of you. So who do you want?
I'm just checking. They are both in sight of me, yes?
Yes.
I hold my ground.
Okay. What about Regina, Ashflower, and Muriel?
Take them. They're completely right about Blarg. And so why should I? If they're going to relinquish my walls, I'll just stand there menacingly with my rock.
Okay.
I would also be willing to shout at them, to intimidate them or something, but I'm not going to attack them.
I shall shout at them. All right, sounds good.
I can do this. I have the skill.
Okay. I have the skill and the technology. I believe it. Okay. What about, let's see, Muriel and Ashflower?
Let's see. Are they wearing anything?
Yes, they are wearing tattered leather armor. Pretty ratty. I mean, they've seen. This is like, you know, Fisher Price, my first armor. You know, like this is not top level quality armor.
So the one nearest me, I will cast Curse of Flame on his armor.
Okay, so position wise, you're going to stay where you are then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that means that the only one who's going to move into actual melee range is Ashflower, if I understand this correctly, right?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Okay, so you're going to move up to them. All right, so now that we've established those positions, now we'll get to chance to decide who acts first and in what order. So, Regina, do you want to shout first, and then Reginald cast, and Miro cast, and then Ashflower attack? Or Ashflower, do you want to jump in, then try to jump in and then dodge right as Reginald and Muriel rain death on them, or what do you want to do? Because I think what Muriel wanted to do was a debuff. So I don't know whether you want Muriel to go first or how you want to do it, but it's up to the players what order you want everybody to go.
Even though she's just gone away.
I will go after Muriel because I want to target the one that she didn't.
I'm gonna shout first because I'm still not clear on the whole take the life force away from people. So maybe we can just scare them off and have the waltz.
Okay.
I'm going to go after Muriel as well, but I'm probably going to go after Reginald.
Okay. So it sounds like this is being established like a logic puzzle. Okay, if this person is after this one. Okay, so I think I got it all.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, we're figuring out how to play this, so...
No, I'm
we're
completely
learning.
joking. I got it. So I think it's Muriel first, it's Regina second.
This is our
I
second
think it's me
fight
first,
so
isn't it?
far.
Because I'm just gonna shout.
Oh, because you're just going to shout, sorry.
Yeah,
So it's
so
Regina
Regina's gonna
first,
shout.
then Muriel
intimidate
second.
Intimidate psychological.
Oh, yeah, psychological warfare, for sure. I got it.
Unless my rock is more intimidating, then I'm gonna intimidate physically.
You will actually try to make an intimidate check, I think. We'll have you do that. So Regina will go first, Muriel will go second, Reginald will go third, Ashflower fourth. Does that sound right to everybody?
Sounds
Okay.
good.
So let's start out with Regina, and Regina, you are going to have an intimidate check here.
Yes.
And it would be good if I could actually type that in properly. Okay.
I do have the skill, and it's brawn for physical and resolve for psychological.
Right. I'm thinking about it. Thank you also, Wawa Tessie Plays. Welcome to the DR Free community. So, let me see about that, though, in combat. Yeah, I know about this already. So we've got that. Okay. Okay. So I think, yeah. So I guess it's going to depend. What are you going to tell them to do when you make your shout?
Leave my ruins.
Okay. Okay. Or what?
What do you mean, or what? I mean, I have a big stone in my head. What?
Well, no, you have to specify. Or I will throw this rock at your head, or I will drop this rock and charge you with my spear. Like, what do you...
Leave my ruins, or I'll break your noses.
Got it. There you go. All right. Oop, shoot.
Ooh.
Did the wrong thing. Did the wrong thing. Mistakes were made. There we go. Sorry about that. Hit the wrong button on my camera. Okay, I was going to lighten things up a little bit as it is starting to get dark here. And I instead made an error. Okay, so, right, so you are going to try to intimidate by shouting at them. All right, that means that you're going to be doing, and you're going to be doing this, basically, I think, technically this is intimidation resolve, although I think really this is okay, so you're good with that? Intimidation
Yes,
resolve?
I'm completely fine with that.
Okay, let's make it happen. Do you have a focus in one of these things?
I have the skill, I don't have the focus.
Okay, sounds good. So I would like you to make that test then for me, please. An intimidate test.
There we go. I've got a double.
You do have a double. Let's see if that's going to be enough for them. For this, I need to find... All right, let's see. So total 12. Yes, that is enough. All right, so that is a success. And in fact, it is a great success.
Yes.
So that means that you were able to, I would say that what your intimidation does, the effect that it has as you menacingly wave your rock around at them, is that it means that the one that does not have the sword, that was like, this one, as you sort of yell at them, he kind of, and he kind of stumbles back. And what it means is that his threat is going to decrease by, I would say, let's say 2. So his threat will decrease by 2. And up to this point, you don't know what their threat is yet, but I will tell you when someone actually engages them in combat, their threat will reduce. Although I will warn everybody that I'm going to compensate for that by using some of my God-given dark fate to increase their threat. Nonetheless, you have definitely intimidated at least one of them. The other one seems to be not as affected. Okay. So they stumble back. Regina makes her opinions known. And that is going to lead us to... I believe, to Muriel. So Muriel, you said you were going to do what?
The one who seemed really affected by what Regina just said.
Yes.
I wanted to set his armor on fire with Curse of Flame.
Okay. All right. So for that, all right, Curse of Flame. Let's get to that page. So for Curse of Flame, not that far down. God, I hate PDFs so much. For some reason, do you have the page number?
Yeah, it's 126.
Thank you. Okay, there we go. Finally. Right. So let's see. Difficulty is threat or 11. Okay, the object itself is not harmed. 100 meters, you can see. Okay. On a success. So yes, and I think you've used this before, if I'm not mistaken.
I did. The last fight we were in, I lit someone's armor on fire.
Okay. So let's see. So we're going to have. All right. So that is that. All right. So that means that you need to equal or exceed on your spell casting test. Okay. So let's see. So that means is the threat rating of your target. Okay. I will tell you that the difficulty you're aiming for here is a 12. So you're going to need to make a spellcasting test that hits a 12 or above.
Okay, and then it's just straight 3d6, or do I add a modifier?
It's 3d6, but you're also going to add the modifier of. Let's see. Difficulties. Yeah. Okay, so it is 12. So you're going to be adding to that test. Sorry, I got to find it. I think actually, yeah, I think it's actually just casting it as like so actually I don't think that you're having to do anything on this other than just cast it. So I think you're right, it's a straight 3d6. And a double.
Oh, I got a 13 with doubles.
Yep, good stuff. All right. Now, when that happens, let's see. And that's the defense test. That is not the case with these guys because they get hit. Okay. Thank you for the follow, Carcaslion. Okay, so it bursts into flames. Immediately causes 1d6 damage to the owner. So you can roll your damage to these guys.
5.
5 points of damage. Shrieks. The rat stick sizzles almost as much or more as the goblin themselves. And so as the thing sizzles and hisses, the goblin is not particularly happy with that situation. And I believe Curse of Flame ignores armor.
Yeah, I think so, but that would also make sense because it's the armor that's on fire.
I would assume that. I would assume that is the case. Yeah. So, all right. So they are going to take. All right. So he's not going to like any of that. All right. So he takes that and shrieks and screams and all does that stuff. Okay. And they, of course, were from a distance. All right. That is good stuff from Muriel. I assume you're going to hold your ground as you have been, Muriel. Okay. Reginald, you're up.
Reginald slams his scythe handle into the ground, points at the body armor of the non-on-fire goblin, and casts one of the nastiest, most spiteful games of the board game, Shatter.
Oh, man, Shatter. Tell the fine people at home what Shatter does.
Ruins your game if you're playing the board game.
Yeah,
But,
that's true.
What Shatter does is it lets, well, assuming I pass my roll in the tabletop version, I get to shatter an object being held by my target as long as I can see it and it can be held by a single person. And if you're playing the board game, please bear in mind, yes, you can use this on talismans.
Mm-hmm.
I have ruined a few people's runs who were close to winning with this spell.
And it works on pretty much any material, yes? Like
Yep, it only specifies non-magical object, weapon, or piece of armor that's visible and small enough that it could be carried by a single individual.
Okay, I'm looking forward to seeing leather shatter. Okay, so you need to make, I think, a spellcasting test.
I do.
And you're aiming for that difficulty of 12.
Difficulty 12. I get a +5 for a spellcasting skill. with an
Actually, hold on a
extra
second.
+2.
Let me, you know what, before you do that, I'm going to, because of Dark Fate, I'm going to increase the threat of this creature by... Oh, great. Well, that was spectacular. 13 is what we end up with. Wow, is that exciting.
As I was saying, I get +7 just from my modifiers because it classes as a nature spell.
Doing what I can for the goblins, but...
Oh,
dang.
does a 20 do the trick?
20 does the trick, plus you did it with a great success. So that means kaboom. So the armor is utterly destroyed.
Yeah. Object shatters and becomes useless.
Yep, so
I
no
assume it
armor.
crumbles to dust.
So he's standing there, right? And he's got the sword and then whoosh, like the leather just blows up and he's like... and he just stands there staring. And the other, so his companion is, He's like trying to, shrieking, trying to put himself out. And he's just staring at you now completely naked. Just, like with his sword, like looking around left, right, eyes left, right. Are you staying where you are, Reginald?
Yes.
Okay. Ash, you see one target is on fire and the other target is naked.
Yeah. It's not how I thought today would be going, but you know what? I'll roll with it. So talk to me. I need a little bit of guidance in regards to the spells that I can cast.
Okay.
So I have 2 soul rune spells that I can cast once per day. Just kind of like they're the runes on my body, basically. And I don't know if I cast a spell, is that my action?
It depends on the spell. Usually spells take a full action, but there are some spells that are bonus or free actions that are listed as such, in which case...
Would you be able to let me know if you know anything about Blade Sharp on page 125?
I can double check that quickly. Yes, Blade Sharp. Temporarily increase a weapon's damage. That is... that is a full action. So it means that you would use up your action sharpening your blade.
Fair enough, I do that. So, yeah, some of the runes on my body glow brightly, and my short sword appears to glow at the same time.
Okay, so it's going to get a +2 damage bonus. And that means you also did not engage them yet, right? Basically, yes, I think is what that means. Okay. So, let's see. Let's talk about, first of all, what happened with Curse of Flame, because I believe it is 1d6 each round they remain in contact with the object. Yeah, I remember this being something which was pretty brutal last time, because it made it very difficult for them since they were actually wearing it. So, so I think what's going to happen is, so first he's going to take, so roll another 1d6 for me to see how much damage is done as we begin this fight.
3.
Okay. So he also looks very hurt. And in a complete and utter panic, he's going to throw himself into the nearest pile of something to kind of put himself out. And the problem is that the thing that he throws himself into are the embers of the fire. So, and then, so the flames go up around him, and the guy who's still naked is standing next to him and just looks over and down as the fire is like, cooking his friend. And he's like, hey, he doesn't say anything, and he just sort of stares back at you. I don't think he's going to be doing anything other than getting ready to burn to death, is what that goblin did. However, his companion, while naked, is still technically, I feel like Star Trek, I still have an effective fighting force. He still has an effective naked body, I guess, that he can actually, and he still has his weapon. So he's going to get a chance, since he was not engaged, to engage all of you. Not engaged in melee, I should say. So the way this works is, okay, that we are going to have, let's see, yes, I know about this already. Okay, now they're going to get to decide what to do. They're going to move to engage a player character melee. To be clear, he's definitely not going to put out his burning friend. This is a goblin, will not do that. So instead, he is going to charge wildly, you actually, Ashflar, with his short sword. Running right at you, naked goblin. Okay, and in this case, you're going to be making a defense test. Now, I am, again, using my Dark Fate on him to build his threat, a little better this time. So, he is now down to, I'm down to 3 Dark Fate, and he is now a threat 15 as he charges at you. I'm assuming you're, like, intimidated by his nakedness as he charges you. Like, you're just like, Jesus, what the hell? Like, I'm guessing, But in any case...
Not even in the top 10 weirdest things I've seen.
It's not, you've seen worse things than this. Okay.
Not even in the top 10.
So, as he charges you, you are going to need to make a defense test against melee attack, and this is going to be agility or brawn, and so you'll be able to do a melee defense, either agility or brawn, for against this melee attack that's being done, and you're trying to beat a 15.
Okay, it's definitely going to be agility, so that's, just for the record, 3d6 plus my agility, yes?
That's correct.
Excellent, thank you. Bear with me a second.
Do you have focus in that, by the way? Because that would be another +2, not dice, but just the number 2. Okay, all right.
No.
Easy.
Making sure. 3d6 plus 3. Well, let's not screw the roll up this time. Well, it wasn't great. It's 13. 13.
That is actually not enough. That means that is a failure. So you are going to take full damage, although your armor will affect this. That means that his attack lands. So he is going to attack you here. Let's see. All right. So 2 things happen. First of all, you are going to take, let's see, so 5, and then you've got your armor. What is your armor?
Just leather armor. I have leather 4 next to armor type.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's like my armor modifier?
Yeah, that means you have 4 points. So what that means is they are going to take damage. So he is going to inflict 5 damage, and then the armor is going to correct some of that. So that means that, first of all, you want to mark that your armor has taken a point of damage. Okay?
Yep, done that.
And then you're going to subtract 5 minus 4, and that means only 1 point of damage is going to get home to you.
Okay.
You're going to take 1 point of damage.
Life.
That's the good news. The bad news is, give me a list of your items, please.
Give you a list of my items. I have leather armor, poisonous kit, an antitoxin kit, a dagger, a short sword, a blowgun, a haversack, a climbing harness, a blanket, a tinderbox, 50 feet of rope, a mess kit, and a water bottle, and some rations.
Got it. As you do this, you hear a whoosh, and suddenly your backpack hits the ground, and he grabs something and spins away from you. This is a special goblin thing. So he has stolen an item from you. You don't know what, but he's clearly ripped you off of something. Yes.
I've been thieved.
You have been
I've had
thieved.
this happen too many times in Final Fantasy. Get in.
You have been thieved. So, all right, you have done that. That is going to bring us to the next round where the party can redecide who wants to go in what order. You have a burning goblin. You have a naked goblin that is engaged with Ashflower. Party, what would you like to do? Or what order do you want to go?
I would very much like to stick my sword in this goblin who just stole out my backpack.
I would like to either go before Ashflower or immediately after Ashflower and target the same goblin. I have an opportunity to stun it, is the thing.
Okay.
Ooh.
So maybe me first.
Please stand by. I think so. Yes. What do other people?
Actually, yeah, I hadn't even considered your class when I was making my plan, but yes, that might play in quite nicely.
Yes, I was just quickly with the assassins build.
This seems familiar. Like we've played a couple of people who synergize quite well in other situations.
Shocker, isn't it? It's not like we've known each other for nearly like a decade or something. Jesus. Yeah, absolutely. Reginald can go first.
Okay. So me, Ashflower, then who's third, I guess?
Then we have Regina and Muriel to position. What are the two of you?
Me and my rock can be third, or Muriel, do you want to go first before me?
No, you go ahead. You take your rock.
My rock and I totally.
I got nothing to light on fire, so I got nothing.
My rock and I were doing great, so everything's fine.
Okay. So we are going to begin then with Reginald.
Okay. So I hold my scythe in the air and a mighty bolt of lightning starts charging up inside it.
Oh, boy.
And I point it at the goblin and attack it with my lightning bolt spell.
Okay, and it was the one that
Ashflower's
Ashflower's
engaged
attacking,
with.
right? Okay.
Yes. So that's going to be another 3d6 plus 7 versus his threat.
Okay. Which I'm going to spend another Dark Fate to increase since it's a new round.
Okay.
And so
At
his
this
new
point,
threat
really...
is 15 again.
Okay. That's where we hope for a kismet. Nope, and I rolled a 13.
Okay. So we've got a 13. That is not enough. So a failure on that, on a spell cast, let's see, does not take effect. So what that means is that you have to spend spell points or lose memory of the spell.
Okay. So that's additionally to the one I've just spent to cast the spell in the first place, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so how many spell points have I got to spend to avoid the effect?
I believe that's a good question. I think the same amount as you used to spend them. The same amount
so
as you used to actually cast it.
Okay, so another 1 point. Okay, that leaves me with 2 spell points then.
Okay. It makes me feel vaguely better about the goblins having done something in this fight. Okay, other than just burn. Okay, and you're going to stay where you are, I assume, Reginald, in terms of position? All right. Ash, you're up. Now you want to...
Okay.
Ash quickly drops his cat and is like...
pretty much. He looks a bit lonely, so I gave him a quick cuddle. I am going to try and stick my sword into the cheeky little thieving goblin and also let my cat out of the study.
Okay. So go ahead.
I need to wait a second, otherwise I'll drop his tail in the door. We have to wait a second.
That's fine. And his threat, I don't have to spend any Dark Fate for this since his threat's already been increased, so he is again at 15 right now.
Cool. So that is going to be, so a normal melee attack would be 3d6 plus my agility plus my focus, but I also have Blade Sharp on, which gives me an additional 2, I believe.
Yeah, just double check and make sure if that's to damage or to attack.
Yeah, I'm just going to double check now. Blade Sharp. Please give me a physical copy of this book. You can temporarily damage bonus.
Okay,
plus
that's
2
what I
damage
figured.
bonus. Okay, cool. So this is not damage, is it?
No, this would be the...
This is to hit.
Correct.
3, 6 plus 5. Yeah, let's do
that. So, first
it's a
of all...
14, and I got a 1 on the Kismet die, so you're welcome for that.
Hey, thanks. Okay, so we've got
That
a
didn't hit him.
14, and that is not enough to hit. That is a damn shame. Okay, that means that on a failure, the enemy you are attacking hits you for the full damage. If you rolled a 1 on the Kismet die, or if the Game Master decides to spend Dark Fate, your opponent may even use a special ability on you.
Bloody items.
All right, let's see what that's going to look like. All right, so first of all, let's take care of this. So you have got another, let's see, 4 points. So you're going to mark another mark off of your armor. But I don't think that 4 is going to get through to you. However, you hear another whoosh, and suddenly your dagger is not being used at the moment, right?
No, that's true.
Okay.
I'm only
your
holding
dagger
my
is now
short sword.
missing.
No, thieving. God.
He says, even though as his friend next to him, "Wah, wah," he's like, so he sort of forgets where he is. This is great. I'm doing really well.
I love the image of him just bundling, because he's got nowhere to put the stuff. He's just bundling it.
Yeah, exactly. He just keeps tossing it behind him. Okay, Regina's up.
I throw my rock finally.
The time has come. Okay.
The time is coming for my rock to fly.
Okay, so we're talking attack ranged.
Yes.
And I think we talked about this. You have a thrown weapon focus.
I have
right?
I have a focus for throwing rocks.
Outstanding. Yes. I cannot wait. All right. So let's make it happen. So you're going to throw it against his threat, and this.
Okay.
Oh, and by the way, are you throwing it on the burning in the fire almost dead goblin, or the one that is stealing all of Ashflower's stuff?
The one that is stealing the stuff, because that is apparently far worse.
I would say so, yes. And so that guy has got currently a 15 threat, so that's the number that you're trying to hit with your ranged attack, and you're going to
be. I get 3d6 for my attack. I get 4 for my agility, and +2 from my focus. So it's 3d6 plus 6.
I love it. The goblin doesn't.
Nope, the goblin still.
The goblin is really, ha ha. Or actually, ho ho. So he nimbly dodges out of the way. You haven't done this before, have you? And then he sees all of you closing in. He's like, and meanwhile his friend, okay. That unless Regina is going to fly closer or away, if Regina is going to hold the same rough position, is Regina going to do that?
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I have no reason to fly closer, and I have no reason to fly away.
Then Muriel would be up last, but certainly not least.
Shoot. His threat is 87, right? It's really high.
That's right. Oh, and okay. We got to think about I'm going to say, by the way, Regina, because it talks about, I'm sorry, Chai, just one sec. When this happens to you, when you have a failure on a ranged attack, what that usually means is that an opponent with a ranged attack strikes you for full damage. They don't have ranged attack. An opponent within melee range strikes you for maximum damage. That isn't possible. But what is possible is the equivalent of losing additional ammo. Now, because I think you just picked up the rock from the ground, what I'm going to say is that you're not going to be able to find a rock this next turn. So that's the way this works.
A really good rock is hard to find.
Exactly. And no stone must be left unturned. Okay. My apologies, Chai. Back we go, Mira.
That's fine. So let's see. He's well. I have 2 spells basically. I have sleep or I have fire. I just used the fire. He's not wearing anything, and I don't think he's holding anything, is he? Other than the stuff he stole.
I was gonna say he's holding a dagger and something else from the backpack and
Yeah, but I don't want to hurt that stuff because it's our stuff.
Right.
Just knock him over the head with a mace, ponk.
Oh yeah, me with my 1 agility, I'm gonna hit him with a mace. Yeah. But I could try putting him to sleep. I just might fail it because it's a threat difficulty.
I don't see why there'd be a problem with the dark fate pumped goblin.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is he's got a threat of 90 2, so
We
I roid up my goblins, I'll tell you right now.
Can we just take a second to appreciate the fact that the more dark fate that Arva's accumulated this turn, the darker his setting has become.
That's
on
why I
camera.
didn't go down to change it. I was like, haha, I need to drop down my aperture, if anything.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess I'll try casting Sleep on him.
'Kay.
That's page 129 if you want to look at it.
I do. All right, so... Alrighty, so what have we got? Oh,
I did well. I did well on my cast.
And you got a light fate also.
Yay!
So you are that, and you got a 15. That's enough, actually. So that means the target's like, and literally just face plants in front of him. And when he face plants, he lands directly on top of the burning goblin. So now you have rah, rah, and the other flame is burning. The other goblin is pretty much dead at this point. In fact, since they're up next anyway, yeah, he expires. And the other guy is now so the the good news is that the creature immediately wakes up upon burning in flames. The bad news is that he's now on fire. So you are going to get a chance, Muriel, to roll your damage against this guy who is now on fire from your previously cast flame.
Okay, 4.
4. Okay. Yep. So he is not happy at all. Okay. He is not asleep, but he is very much on fire. All right. That is going to begin. Or that was their turn, right? Okay, so next round comes up. One goblin is dead and burning. One goblin is alive and burning and prone. So with that in mind, who wants to go in what order?
I'm not going at those with my spears. Then my spears might get hurt from the flames.
True.
I'm
Still
running
got
out
a
of
couple
spell
of spells
slots, so
up my
someone go
sleeve.
before me.
I'll go first then. Which is the one on the ground, the one that's been nicking stuff? Or is that the
Yes.
dead one?
And technically, they're both on the
Technically,
ground
they're
now,
both
but
on the
one of them
ground.
is dead. So the
Yes.
current living one is on the
Okay.
ground and burning.
Okay.
I don't mind going first or second because I think I get a bonus to prone enemies.
I'll let you go first then. And I.
You sure?
I let you, yes. With my gracious permission, you may go first.
Thank you very much, sir. Considering the way I've been rolling, I don't know if this is a wise idea.
To be clear, I'm going to pump this goblin up. In case anyone's curious as to why I'm doing this, it's because we're closing in on the end of the session, and it's been a lot of fun. So I'm going to pump up this goblin. So it is
Reminder
at
to
15
players,
threat at the moment. I am down
Don't
to
forget,
2 dark
you have
fate.
a light fate. Every player should have a light fate.
That
I
is
don't think
quite
any of us
right.
have spent it yet.
That's right.
Wait for the
Although
opportunity
we
to
can't
use
actually
it.
spend it if we fail a roll, we can't spend it to re-roll that, as I've just been revising the rules on it, which is a bit of a buggerance. So you can't turn a failure into a win.
True.
The thing that I can do with light fate is against people with armor, which this goblin did not
They're
have.
literally naked. It's like, God bless America. Okay.
Yeah.
So
but the
15.
other thing is you can use it to try and turn a success into a great success or a great success into an extraordinary success with light fate. So there is that.
Yes. Which is pretty good.
So what are we thinking? Ashflower first.
And
I
then
may
you.
as well have a stab.
Take a stab at it. Go on.
All right.
Step right up.
So Ashflower, Reginald, and then Regina and Muriel. Does that sound?
Yeah.
Better. 17. That is a hit.
Thank goodness.
That is a success.
Um,
Now, actually,
okay, excellent stuff.
that's a standard success. Do you want to use that light fate to make it a great success, which means you wouldn't
Yes,
get
I
hit
do.
back? Okay.
Yes, I do.
All right.
So now I only have one light fate.
Okay. And go ahead and make your damage roll. And now you do add the +2 because you hit it with because of the blade sharp. So
I do, yeah. So blade sharp is +2. So my short sword is 1d6 minus. Hang on a minute. Damage roll is 1d6 +4, but it's 1d6 -1 for a short sword. So I'm gonna do 1d6 +3.
+3 and then +2
Plus the
or
two. Yeah, 1d6 plus.
so 1d6 +5 total, I think.
Yeah.
And he has no armor.
also-
He'll be happy to know. So.
And he's also prone. If
And he's
I
prone.
remember correctly.
It's not.
Some
This is
stuff,
not a good
some-
situation. And he's burning. This is.
It's not
You know,
cool,
in the
so-
list of things to be, the goblin is not pleased with the list of things.
Before driving my sword in, I take a split second to realize where the softest part of this goblin is.
Okay.
And using my last light fate, I will deal an additional 2 points of damage per level to my attack due to treachery. And this can only be done against creatures or targets that are surprised or partially surprised, immobile or unable to take actions, or is currently friendly towards me. I do like that it says that this will end the friendly attitude.
The friendly
of this
condition,
creature.
that's right. Now, does it say, because he's technically not immobilized?
Unable to take actions.
No, I would not say that. He is able to take actions. He's burning.
Oh, I see. I thought you said he was prone.
He's prone, but that doesn't mean he can't take actions. It means he can't move away from you. But he can certainly roll around. And,
is he immobile?
No, he's not.
He's prone. No, okay.
Prone does
Then I
not mean
can't do that
immobile.
one then. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Let's just this damage then. 9 points of damage.
That's a lot of damage, and in fact, more than enough. So you stab him, and as he's lying there, your backpack was dull. And he expires, and you find yourselves looking at the dead. And I like the idea, incidentally, that as he gradually expires and everything sort of settles into an eerie quiet, you can just hear this popping and snapping, and you realize that it's what's left of the goblin burning on the fire. And with that pleasant smell of roasted goblin and a castle which you have now claimed for your own, meaning that we will begin our next session with you being ready for the next day of travel, I'm going to have us bring this session to a close. And we got a little bit of a combat in, and we got some variety, and we got to see a lot of Dark Fate being used all over the place. Incidentally, I think I may have mentioned this, but we are using the milestone experience system like we do in D&D, which means as you advance through certain adventures, you will gain levels as a consequence. So I'm just letting you know I'm not ignoring experience. It's just milestone is much better. So success, everybody. We also got to see what it was like to have great successes and great failures. So we got the whole 9 yards. The only thing to keep in mind as a mechanical thing for you, Ashflower, is that he somehow severed the straps on your pack. So you will need to fix that when you are when you're beginning the next one. So just kind of keep that in mind. But that said,
absolute asshole.
Yeah, he was, and he's dead for it.
I'm glad that goblin's dead.
And with that, I'm going to start as always, start with the bottom of the column and move on the way up. Chai, once again, that Curse of Fire armor thing is doing work. I'm going to need to remember from now on, just the minute you're like, I cast, I'm going to be like, Dark Fate. I have to immediately pump up their threat level, because once I did that, and that's an interesting mechanic in this game, I think. Once I did that, you folks had a lot. The rolls weren't, you had a little bit of trouble with the rolls, but it was also just, it was harder to deal with them. And I normally would never waste it on, a couple of goblins and some castle ruins. But in this case, it seemed to make sense because I wanted to see how the mechanic would work out. And now I know that fate can be useful in certain circumstances. But you did very well with that. And also with, I was loving this sort of back and forth stuff with you and Regina, and I cannot think of a worse matched, thereby hilariously matched group of like characters than this. Like everyone being like, what I don't even. It was great, and therefore it was a lot of fun as always. How did you feel about today? For me, it was fun anyway. I hope it was fun for you guys. How did you feel about today? Where will the lovely folks see you next?
I mean, as always, I had a great time. I mean, I was able to pay more attention than normal, so that was really fun because I was able to actually hear you over the baby.
I know. I feel bad that you're in that. You have to deal with that, but charming child, charming baby.
It's just the season of life we're in. See, there she goes again.
Exactly.
It's just more of that. It never stops. I know you turned it off. You got to turn it back on. Anyway, as always, I thought it was great fun. I loved it. I loved the banter. I love how organic it is and how we just like go back and forth. And I really, really enjoy it. That's so much fun. And I'm really glad that both of my spells worked somehow.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that.
I forgot about that. Your sleep spell as well worked. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll keep those in mind after I have a nap because I'm almost out of spells.
Good timing for it. You are camping, so
yeah,
makes
we are
sense.
camping, so it's perfect.
Yes.
Anyway, I am playing over on my personal channel. I play all week, and I won't be there tomorrow. I have an appointment tomorrow, but I will be there on Thursday, and we are playing Rise to Ruins, which is not stressful at all, and I'm loving it.
It's great in every respect. That's awesome.
Great in every way.
That's great. Thank you, Chai, as always. Great pleasure. And yeah, and I appreciate that you play with us even while having to negotiate, because of course, I know the feeling with the children. So, but thank you as always. Great stuff today. Great stuff also as well from Mike with Ashflower. Ash really got, I mean, again, the Regina Ash, like, thing was really cracking me up, where you're just like, what is and Regina's like, what do you mean? Like, it's just great. Two worlds collide. And also you got a chance to show a little bit of what I think the Laywalker's combat skills will be. And over time, you'll be able to build these up. Again, I wouldn't blow those resources normally in a fight like that, but it was interesting to me to see, that really does make a difference when you do use those resources. So it's good for us to keep in mind, and for us all to think about the way that we use and spend light fate and dark fate. So that's cool. How did you feel about today? Where would lovely folks find you next?
Yeah, I felt really good. It's been really, really nice. I'm getting more to grips with the system. I feel like I'm getting more to grips with like how to do attacks and damage and all this sort of stuff and skills, and it's making a lot more sense in my head. I do feel like I need to do a bit more reading in regards to like the meta mechanics. So like eating provisions, this sort of thing, traveling, that sort of stuff.
Agreed.
I don't really take any notice of in D&D. I think because you're very lenient with that sort of stuff, whereas I know some GMs aren't that lenient with that sort of stuff. I should let my cat out again. Sorry, bear with me. Very important business. Yeah, I know some GMs are quite lenient with that sort of stuff, but that's probably something I want to think about, because I'm passively not thinking about it. Do you know what I mean? I'm just not paying any attention. But yeah, super look forward to the next session. If anybody wants to check out my streams as well, I'll be streaming on my personal channel this Thursday at 4:30 BST now, because apparently it's summer in Britain. So you can figure that one out in your own time zones. That's not my job anymore. Well, I'll be playing some more lo-fi gaming. So I'm going to be playing Spiritfarer on Nintendo Switch, which is just delightful and just probably the most charming game I've played in years. So yeah, we're going to be helping complete the last wishes of the recently departed, and also ferry them to the land beyond, which is slightly similar to some of the characters in this campaign, to be honest with you.
Yes, in different mechanisms, but you know, the same concept. Always a pleasure, Mike. Thank you. Yeah, and you're right. I generally, I mean, I want to have the basics covered, so I know that people get provisions and they get those for time, and I keep basic track of the load, and I will bring up if I think that there's something that, like, you're not going to be able to carry that with you. Beyond that, I have never met a Dungeons and Dragons player who finds more enjoyment out of figuring out how many coins of encumbrance they're carrying. Like, I'm sorry, I just don't. If I wanted to do that, I would go.
This is not Skyrim.
Yeah, like, it's also not me unpacking my boxes in my house. Like, I'm going to go do that now. Like, I don't want to do that in a game. But you are right that it's important to sort of generally know about it. And in this particular case, especially with similar to the AIME, we do need to know a little bit more about the food situation. So I'll take a look into that as well. Anyway, always a pleasure to have Mike with us, and who does this amazing video that you were about to see when we're done with these outros. Also a great pleasure to have Dark Saber with us. Again, thank you for doing all the Moobot and the dashboard and all that stuff. And yeah, Reginald got some work done as well. First of all, Shatter was extremely useful in that particular fight. Also, Reginald was big time on the stuff with the Enchantress, I loved the Dung Sweeper. We had the chance for the encounter with the Dung Sweeper, and you picking up on the rhyme and the Dung Sweeper being like, what? Like, not getting it. So I loved all of that. So we had Reginald kind of out front for a while doing stuff with guiding, even if it wasn't what Reginald would normally have thought that he would be doing. So I thought that was cool. How did you feel about today? Where would lovely folks find you next?
Well, yeah, Reginald certainly felt that most of the companions he seems to have ended up with. They don't even know where they are, much less where they're going.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't even got into the why of it yet.
That's true.
Someone thinks they're on a pub crawl. Someone thinks they're here to assassinate me. And someone doesn't seem to know what day of the week it is and occasionally wakes up upside down on the roof of a house, from what I heard tonight.
Oh, the living.
Yes, the living problems. But living problems affect ghoul people too. So Reginald's, he's got a spirit he has to lay to rest. So he's persevering and getting to use Shatter. As soon as I saw that Shatter could class as a nature spell, I was like, yes, that is the most spiteful spell I know of in Talisman. I absolutely love it when I get that spell, and I detest when a player uses it on me. So I was absolutely taking
the
that.
fact that it works on leather armor too. I'm just kind of like, does it harden at first and then like a chocolate shell on an Easter bunny or something?
I'm just thinking like flakes off.
Yeah,
like,
I guess
it instantly
like,
ages a million years and just.
Oh man, it was good because it gave me a chance for more naked goblin visuals, which is always good.
Chat's reaction to that was very funny, especially people walking in at just that moment and going, "Oh God!"
You're like, what?
Yeah. Roasted goblin, naked goblin. It's been a very eventful session, all in all. But I will be back next tomorrow. Not 100% sure what I'm streaming yet. It might be quite likely be Mountain Blade Warband 2. Or Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord, I should say, because I haven't checked in with that for a while and it's still in development, so I want to see where that's up to. And I'll be back on my channel on Thursday doing some more Final Fantasy X, most likely.
Good stuff. Always a pleasure. Thank you, Saber. And last but certainly not least, always a pleasure to have Pyron with us. Regina, we got a chance to intimidate and successfully did so. Got a chance with, which ended up not mattering because then the armor caught on fire. Oh, I shouldn't say it. It did matter, but it was funny because that goblin like stopped mattering and then became nothing within like 3 seconds because it was on fire. You intimidated it and then its armor burst into flames and then that was it. So you all tag teamed it very well. But also, of course, you got a chance to do the rock throw, although it didn't work this time around. But you did manage to as well get a lot of banter back and forth with Reginald and Ash and Muriel. You got people encountering Regina all the time. And I think you've really established Regina as this exactly as you wanted, like this short-tempered, pun not totally intended, person who, is just kind of like back off all the time. And what do you mean? And constantly taking offense at things in a funny way. And so it was fun to see Regina develop further. How did you feel about today and where will the lovely folks see you next?
Well, I very obviously love today. There's no question about that. I didn't know where they're going to see me again. Well, of course, for the next D&D session and then the next Talisman session. So that's for sure. But if I'm going to get another stream in before that, I don't know yet. But I can say another thing because I can already reveal that we're going to onboard new members to the stream team very, very soon. So I hope that everybody's going to give them...
We know some of them. They're really good. Yeah.
Yes, we know some of them. They're really good. So that's something that I'm really excited about, and it's gonna be great. And so I hope everybody is still also enjoying Spring Sale and all the great games coming around. I heard good things about Narita Boy, although it looks like really, really weird. I like the Disco Elysium update now with all the voice acting. So it's like maybe I actually get some time for gaming.
Who does that? I mean, games.
I don't know. Really strange. So yeah, but what you said like about Reginald not thinking about being our guide, I think Reginald is the perfect guide. It's all he does. He guides people on the right way, and we're on kind of a spiritual journey. So Reginald being our guide
to the afterlife, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a different kind of journey.
You never know. You never know.
It might not end up that way.
I'm really. I think things are working out absolutely perfectly. So yeah.
That makes sense to me. Always a pleasure to have this wonderful crew with me. And you will see them chat next month. I believe we have it set for a few weeks from now. We're going to do it again in a row because of the way schedule breaks down. First Storm King's Thunder, and then In fact, it'll be 3 weeks. 3 weeks, because the next 2 weeks I'm doing Pen and Pixels without tabletop. Then 3 weeks from now will be Storm King's Thunder, and then 4 weeks from now we'll be back to this game. So we will have more of this going on. So if you love that tabletop goodness, you know what to do. Follow the channel, sub to the channel, and for right now, please give your love to these wonderful players who I'm now going to bid goodbye to and wrap up. So thank you so much, as always, to Pyron J, Darksaber2K, Peripheral Mike / Mike Smith, and of course Tasty Chai. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye, players. I will see you soon. And that, folks, is going to do it for... Let's see how dark it actually is when I go full screen here. Ooh, that's what I'm talking about. This is like Halloween territory. I got the aperture up also. This is what it looks like. Man, I am going to be... Oh, man, I'm going to be rocking and rolling. When I actually do the Halloween streams, let me tell you what. This is perfect. You know, I got Dark Fate, and I was able to use some of that Dark Fate, and yeah, it was fun. It's a fun system, although it does take a lot of getting your head around because it's much more simultaneous in nature than what I'm used to with D&D, where it's 1, then 1, then 1, then 1. And so that's something which I have to get used to. But either way, I am very excited by this system, and I want to thank Pegasus Spiele for sponsoring us, and of course, thank you to GOG for allowing us to continue to stream this as part of Pen and Pixels and on this channel. I will be back next week with Pen and Pixels, playing a game that I have not yet decided. As I mentioned, I'm so excited that I finally, without any ideas and with any kind of conception about what I want to do ahead of time up until a few days before, I'm going to take a chance to go look through the games available on GOG and decide what game would I like to play next, which is the first time I've done that for years. So I am looking forward to that very much. So whatever it's going to be, it'll be some story narrative focused game next time, and it's going to be awesome. And I can't wait for it. Also on my channel, I will be back on Friday with what I think is going to be maybe Aspergernesis, or it might be it actually might be Sorcery's Inkle. Let me just check quickly. The thing that it's going to be on my channel is... It's going to be, it is Sorcery. So this weekend is a Sorcery weekend, Sorcery number 3, by the company Inkle, Sorcery number 3, the 7 Serpents. So you'll get a chance to see a little bit of that on my channel. Otherwise, you will, of course, be able to see folks right here. I believe we've got Wolfie Lore coming up tomorrow, but I'm going to wrap up and close up shop for now. And so, are you afraid of the dark? It's going to be great. So that's going to do it for me. I'm going to rise up and out of here. I have some dinner to get. I have some meetings I got to do tonight and stuff like that. But if you like what you saw and heard, please follow us here on GOG, please sub to us here on GOG, and please check out our individual channels and subsystems as well. And most of all, thank you all so much for being amazing and awesome people. I'm very excited for the new stream team members and very pleased to be a part of this team, as I have been for years. So thank you to my wonderful players, and thank you to all of you for being great. Please spread the word and let GOG know if you like what we're doing here. Please let them know that D&D and Talisman are great things and you want to see more stuff like this from GOG. Please let them know, because they will pay attention to that. So please let them know, tell your friends and all that kind of stuff, and it'll be good. That's going to do it for me, though. Thanks, much love to everybody, and I will catch all of you people either next week on this channel on Pen and Pixels at 4 p.m. Eastern, or on my channel on Friday for April Sorcery's Inkle Sorcery 3, the 7 Serpents. That's it for now. Bye all, and I will see you all soon. Bye for now.